Chapter 1244. How many secondary demon kings are there? 99, the handsome guy said. That many? Of course. In hell, including me, there are 7 major demon kings, 21 demon kings, and 99 secondary demon kings. In the past 100,000 years, there have been 12 secondary demon kings and 1 demon king. Do you decide on demon kings and secondary demon kings? I don't have to decide on demon kings. Secondary demon kings that can challenge demon kings can naturally be replaced. Can demon kings challenge major demon kings? Theoretically, yes, but it's also impossible. At least, there's no record of any demon king challenging major demon kings. To Qin Zhao, the things that the handsome guy was talking about were too far away from him. He was more concerned about Beelzebub Sophie's safety. Because he was a friend. It was that simple. Oh, did you bring the demon god pillar? Oh, no. You can bring the demon god pillar next time. I will help you find a suitable demon and seal it in the demon god pillar to be used as your familiar. Qin Zhao's heart jumped. The demon god pillar in Mirror Lake was still empty. Qin Zhao had always wanted to find a suitable demon to be his familiar. Agar's was not bad, but she wasn't actually very strong. She wasn't even as strong as Abito's, so it was meaningless to bring her to his doorstep. I want a demon that can protect my territory, Qin Zhao said. It'd be best if it's easy to control and not untamed. Next time you come to hell, I'll help you find one. Qin Zhao stayed in hell for a full 24 hours. His magic power increased by 1/10. It wasn't much, but it wasn't a small amount either. These 24 hours were probably equivalent to half a year of normal cultivation. Qin Zhao knew his current level and how difficult it was to double his magic power. Qin Zhao returned to the human world and saw 2 missed calls. They were from West. Hey guild leader, there's a man called Enro. He says he wants to meet with you. That liar? Qin Zhao rubbed his forehead. Earlier, Sharon had asked him to teach Enro a lesson for her. Qin Zhao hadn't agreed. This had nothing to do with him. Plus, he'd helped Sharon record Enro's dirty plans. He'd already done his best. Qin Zhao was too lazy to be a busybody. This couldn't even be considered as acting bravely for a just cause. Sharon was a cop herself, and she had the skills to deal with a liar. Therefore, Qin Zhao didn't feel the need to be nosy. However, Qin Zhao didn't expect Enro to still find him. Guild leader, that person is a swindler? What did he lie about? He's a con man who takes women's money, Qin Zhao said calmly. Guild leader, how do you know such a person? West's tone was filled with obvious disgust. A suicidal idiot, Qin Zhao said. Where did he ask to meet me? Bar 551 Richard Street. Richard Main Street? That far? Guild leader, these scammers usually have many tricks up their sleeves. You'd better be careful. West wasn't worried about Qin Zhao's safety. If there was really something that could threaten his safety, it would probably be the end of the world. However, swindlers were different. They might not be harming people's lives. Got it, I'll be careful. Qin Zhao arrived at Richard Main Street. Richard Main Street was an old neighborhood. In the 50s and 60s, before Hollywood's movie industry was established, Richard Main Street was already a famous industrial district. However, as Los Angeles's pillar industry changed and the movie industry rose, Los Angeles became a world-famous movie factory. Richard Main Street gradually declined. There were still many old houses on both sides of the street. Most of them were built in the 50s and 60s, old and weathered. There weren't many people living here. There were also very few people and cars on the street. When Qin Zhao had wanted to come to America, he'd done some research. This was one of the places where the rent was cheap and it was safe. This was a white neighborhood. Although it had declined, most of the residents still retained their stubbornness and pride. They also had some racial tendencies. If Qin Zhao had chosen to rent a house here, he might not have been able to get one. Qin Zhao parked the car on the side of the road and strolled around the shops. Soon Qin Zhao found Bar 551. Bar 551 wasn't a house number. It was just called Bar 551. Qin Zhao didn't know why it had such a strange name. A man in a windbreaker pushed open the door of the bar and bumped into Qin Zhao. The two glanced at each other. The man shrugged. Sorry. Qin Zhao touched his pockets. He hadn't lost anything. Entering the bar, Qin Zhao saw Enro. Smiling, Qin Zhao sat down before Enro. At the same time, he asked the waiter to pour 2 glasses of wine. Hi, Mr. Enro. I heard you were looking for me. Mr. Qin, did you tell Sharon about my plan? Enro looked at Qin Zhao with a livid expression. What are you talking about? I don't understand. You tricked me? Enro stared at Qin Zhao angrily. Don't you know the rules of our industry? You causing trouble like this and exposing my plan is not tolerated by the industry. Qin Zhao finally understood. This guy was here to punish him. Qin Zhao didn't know if Sharon had told him everything. Qin Zhao didn't care what Inro's goal was. He only blamed Sharon. After all, he'd helped her. How did he get involved again? I don't understand the rules. Qin Zhao stood up. If there's nothing else, I'll be leaving. Qin Zhao wasn't interested in wasting time with a liar who tricked women. So he turned to leave. Just then, Inro slammed the table and stood up angrily. Yellow monkey. Do you know you've made a stupid decision? Qin Zhao stopped and turned to look at Inro. Don't force me to attack you here. You'll regret it. Inro stared at Qin Zhao with a livid expression. Qin Zhao sneered. Regret? He really wasn't afraid of Inro's threat. If Inro's threat could really pose a threat to him, then he wouldn't have specialized in deceiving women. I'm looking forward to seeing how you'll make me regret it. With that, Qin Zhao turned to leave. On his way home, he received a call from David. Hi David. How come you have time to call me? Where are you now? Oh, what's up? Chapter 1245. Escape? David, your joke is so strange. I'm strange? You're the one who's strange. David's bruises were slightly angry. Are you going to come to the police station and surrender yourself, or do I have to arrest you myself? I don't know what you're talking about. Your murder of Inro Becker has already been recorded by the surveillance cameras. I think you don't have to pretend in front of me anymore. Wait, kill Inro Beck? Qin Zhao was dumbfounded. What kind of nonsense was this? When did he kill that liar? David, say it clearly. I don't care what you want to say. Anyway, come to the police station immediately. If you're sentenced, your sentence will be reduced. Qin Zhao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What was going on? But he couldn't explain it now. He could only go to the police station and figure things out first. When Qin Zhao parked the car in front of the police station, Sharon was already there, staring at him. You did this for me? Weird. Qin Zhao rolled his eyes and entered the police station without looking back. Seeing Qin Zhao, David handcuffed him right away. Qin Zhao looked at the handcuffs. It wasn't the first time he'd put them on. Last time it was Sharon who'd done it for him. Qin Zhao didn't think that David would do it himself this time. Is it necessary? Qin Zhao looked at David helplessly. Follow me. David brought Qin Zhao to the interrogation room and closed the door. Qin, why did you kill that person? David, I didn't kill anyone. At least, I didn't kill anyone today. Where were you at exactly 4 in the afternoon? Qin Zhao didn't really remember the time. After thinking, he said, either at 551 bar or in the car. But the surveillance camera at the entrance of 551 bar recorded the entire process of you killing Inro Becker. You even dragged Inro Becker's body into a van. Qin Zhao scratched his head. Can I see the surveillance? David looked at Qin Zhao deeply. He knew many things about Qin Zhao. He even knew that Qin Zhao would sometimes use private torture. David wouldn't ask about it either. After all, some of Qin Zhao's actions went against his professional ethics. But this time Qin Zhao was too brazen. So David was even more conflicted. In the previous call, he even hoped that Qin Zhao would run away and disappear from the world. But he didn't expect Qin Zhao to turn himself in so casually. David played the surveillance video to Qin Zhao. The surveillance video recorded Qin Zhao entering and leaving the bar. When he saw this, he looked up at David. See, I've already left. But just as he finished speaking, Inro walked out of the bar. At this moment, a van suddenly braked in front of the bar. In the video, Qin Zhao charged out of the van and shot Inro's head 3 times. Then he dragged Inro's body into the van. Qin Zhao's eyes widened in disbelief. Because the person in the monitor was really him, and he was dressed exactly the same as him. David ended the video and looked at Qin Zhao. The owner of the bar called the police. He also confirmed that you and Inro Beck had an argument in the bar. Qin Zhao rubbed his head. Can I say that I'm not the murderer in this video? Qin, the evidence is clear now. Why are you still denying it? I hope you can hand over Inro Becker's body. I really didn't do it. Qin Zhao's face was filled with helplessness. Qin, someone changed into my appearance and committed the crime, Qin Zhao said. Do you think that if I wanted to kill someone, I would do it so openly? David frowned at Qin Zhao. To be honest, if there wasn't this video, he wouldn't believe it either. He believed that Qin Zhao wouldn't be crazy enough to commit murder in broad daylight. More importantly, did Qin Zhao need a gun? I didn't do it. Are you serious? David stared at Qin Zhao seriously. Qin Zhao rubbed his chin. Turn around and look. When David turned around, he was shocked. Behind him, a black and red liquid appeared as if it was going to swallow him. Qin Zhao had shown David the dark lava. At the same time, he'd swallowed the table in the torture room right in front of him. Did you see that? Qin Zhao said helplessly. If I wanted to kill someone and destroy the evidence, I wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. I can make them disappear without anyone noticing. I don't need to self-destruct like this. Qin Zhao couldn't show this ability in court. But David believed Qin Zhao. So, someone really changed into your appearance and committed murder in the street? Qin Zhao nodded. David was troubled. Is this person also a spiritualist? Maybe. It's possible. If it's just plastic surgery, they can't change their clothes in such a short time. I think it's some kind of spiritualist magic. If that's the case, this person can change into your appearance, then it's possible that he can also change into someone else's appearance. In this case, it's almost impossible to catch the real culprit, and you will inevitably be tried in court, and your crime will almost never be cleared. So troublesome? Qin Zhao sighed. Use my phone and call someone called West. Tell him to come here. Fei Lai, try to hide it if you can. Call her and tell her that I got drunk here, Qin Zhao said. Oh, if I want to be released on bail, what procedures do I need? How much? You can't be released on bail now. What? Because your assets and the current evidence are too obvious, so you can't be released on bail. Even if it's accepted, you'll probably have to pay $10 million. No one was in more pain than David. Because he knew that his friend was innocent. But he couldn't do anything. He even had to send his friend to jail with his own hands. Qin Zhao was very angry now too. But he had to suppress his anger. He couldn't vent it on David, right? You can only stay in the detention room tonight? David seemed pained. Tomorrow you'll be transferred to jail until the court or I find groundbreaking evidence. Qin Zhao nodded helplessly. He was really unlucky this time. But he didn't have high hopes for David and the police. Chapter 1246. Qin Zhao was locked in the police station's detention room. The handcuffs were temporarily removed. Actually, David also knew that handcuffs were meaningless to Qin Zhao. In fact, the police station was meaningless to Qin Zhao. If Qin Zhao wanted to leave, no one could stop him. Qin Zhao didn't think that he would have a day like this. However, Qin Zhao actually had a cellmate. It was a bald fatty wearing a loose t-shirt. There were all sorts of strange tattoos on his head, extending all the way to his shoulders. His expression was ferocious. Qin Zhao lay on the bed, but the fatty was already staring at him. Kid, take off your pants, the bald fatty shouted. Qin Zhao turned his head and glanced at the fatty, after which he sat up. What did you say? I told you to take off your pants. Qin Zhao stood up, but he subconsciously glanced at the surveillance camera. He was already very angry, very angry. I told you to take off your pants. Don't you understand? The fatty roared again. At the same time he stood up and reached out to grab Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao swung his fist and smashed into the wall behind the fat bald man. His body smashed into the fat bald man's body. The fat bald man was knocked back onto the bed. He saw Qin Zhao's fist retract from the wall. The dust on the wall landed on the fatty's face. Baldy raised his head and looked at the hole in the wall. His expression suddenly became unnatural. Qin Zhao put his hands on the edge of the bed frame. He squeezed hard, deforming the metal frame. What did you say? Say it again. I was joking. The fatty wanted to cry. He was about to piss his pants. He'd thought that Qin Zhao was an Asian with yellow skin. He'd heard that Asians were all cowards in America. Who would have thought that Qin Zhao wasn't cowardly at all? He even looked ferocious? More importantly, this guy was so strong that he didn't seem human. Duong Duong, Qin Zhao turned around and saw David standing outside the door. He knocked on the metal fence. Qin, someone's here to visit you. Qin Zhao rubbed his forehead and walked to the fence. When David opened the door, Qin Zhao said, if he wants to change rooms, don't agree. David looked at the bald fatty who was so scared that he peed his pants and then nodded. Qin Zhao was brought to the interrogation room and saw West sitting there. Generally speaking, when a suspect was locked up in a temporary detention center, he was not allowed to see anyone other than his lawyer. But West must have his own ways. Seeing Qin Zhao in handcuffs, West covered his mouth to stifle his laughter. He had never seen Qin Zhao in such a sorry state. If you're here to mock me, I'll make you regret it when I get out, Qin Zhao threatened. All right, guild leader. Let's get down to business. West immediately gave in. The mocking words that he had prepared were immediately tossed aside, not daring to come out of his mouth again. Guild leader, tell me the specifics. I was framed. Qin Zhao told the whole story. There are people who can change their appearance and even their clothes? Yes. Qin Zhao nodded. Is there a way to capture him? Alice knows divination, but it'll be difficult if the person's magic level is higher than Alice. Then let Alice do the divination first, Qin Zhao said. Seeing that Qin Zhao was filled with anger, West didn't dare to provoke Qin Zhao. Otherwise Qin Zhao would really lose control. Qin Zhao didn't want things to get out of hand. After all, Fei Lai was pregnant. He didn't want her to be worried. Tomorrow, call Fei Lai and tell her that I'm going on a secret mission. Okay. Qin Zhao stood up and walked out of the interrogation room. David was waiting for him at the door. He wasn't eavesdropping at the door. Instead, he was helping Qin Zhao watch and make sure that other police officers wouldn't come. Are you done? Yes. Qin Zhao nodded. David brought Qin Zhao back to the detention room. Can your friend help you find the person? I hope so. To be honest, Qin Zhao's thoughts were all over the place. If he really couldn't find the person, what should he do? Run away. Then his 1 year of hard work would go down the drain. Or accept the punishment of the law. Or go to jail for 8 to 10 years. Either way, Qin Zhao couldn't accept it. Indeed, he had to find the culprit. Qin Zhao returned to his detention room with a dark expression. Seeing the trembling bald fatty, a cruel smile appeared on Qin Zhao's face. I'm warning you, don't do anything stupid. I know a gang. The bald fatty stared at Qin Zhao in fear. You're right. Are you gay? No. No. Then what do you want me to do by taking off my pants? I just want to tease you. Qin Zhao couldn't understand this kind of bad taste. You like people taking off their pants? Fine, then take off your pants. What are you doing? The fatty covered his butt and stared at Qin Zhao in terror. Are you going to take it off yourself or do I have to help you? Qin Zhao looked at the fatty. To be honest, he wasn't really interested in the fatty's naked body. However, the fatty had provoked him first. If Qin Zhao didn't fight back, the fatty would really look down on him. I'm not doing anything. I just like to see naked bodies. When Qin Zhao said this, even he felt like vomiting. I'll sue you. I'll sue you for bodily harm. The fatty didn't think that one day he'd have to use the law to protect himself. Qin Zhao looked around and then dismantled the fatty's bed frame. He held an iron rod in his hand. When I take off your clothes and pants, there'll be one more of this in your dick. Do you believe me? No. The fatty felt as wronged as a wife who just met a hooligan. He didn't know that Qin Zhao was so fierce. In the end, under Qin Zhao's coercion, the fatty took off his clothes and pants. Just leave your underwear. So fucking disgusting. Qin Zhao couldn't bear to watch anymore. He lay back on his bed and turned his back. However, he tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep. Qin Zhao turned around and glanced at the fatty. At the moment, the fatty was curled up on his bed. Because of Qin Zhao's violent actions, his bed had already collapsed. Hey, what's your name? The fatty looked up at Qin Zhao. He didn't really want to speak. But after some thought, considering Qin Zhao's combat power, he still spoke. Morocco-Bic. What crime did you commit? Chapter 1247. Morocco Piccolo would be sent to prison tomorrow just like him. Just the thought of going to jail gave him a headache. Go to jail? Stay in jail? Qin Zhao was getting more and more anxious. Morocco curled up in the corner. He felt that Qin Zhao's gaze was a bit scary. Even the air in the detention room became oppressive. Morocco curled up like that for the whole night. Qin Zhao didn't sleep for the entire night. He just sat on the bed. The next day, Qin Zhao and Morocco were sent to the escort vehicle. To a prison in the suburbs. Qin Zhao's hands and feet were shackled. According to the prison rules of the United States, when transferring prisoners, murderers were required to wear leg cuffs. So, Qin Zhao was honored to put on the shackles. Morocco glanced at Qin Zhao, who was in the same car as him. He secretly prayed that he wouldn't be in the same cell as Qin Zhao again. Otherwise he would be in big trouble. After arriving at the prison, Qin Zhao was finally unshackled. He changed into an orange prison uniform. Then he was sent to his cell. Coincidentally, when Morocco saw Qin Zhao walk into the prison, he looked like he was about to cry. Hi Morocco, we meet again. Hehe, what a coincidence. Morocco felt like crying. Thankfully, he wasn't as irritable as he was in the detention center. At least when Morocco didn't provoke him, Qin Zhao couldn't be bothered to vent his anger on him. How long is the sentence for intentional homicide in Morocco? Morocco's heart skipped a beat. He couldn't be a homicidal maniac, right? It depends on the plot. It's shooting someone in the head in the middle of the street? At least 10 years. Hearing Morocco's answer, Qin Zhao started thinking about how to escape. How troublesome. At this moment, the ringing of a bell came from outside the cell. What's that sound? When Morocco heard this, he relaxed and explained, it's lunchtime. At this moment, the electronic door opened with a click. Qin Zhao and Morocco walked out of the cell. The prison canteen was a hodgepodge. There were all kinds of people. Of course, Qin Zhao was also one of the various types of people. Qin Zhao carried a plate. The prisoner in charge of carrying the food looked up at him. "Newbie?" The prisoner casually gave Qin Zhao some food. Qin Zhao didn't like this attitude, even if he didn't care about the amount of food. "Forget it, I'm already in prison, it's better to keep a low profile." Qin Zhao found Morocco's seat. Seeing Qin Zhao sit down, Morocco immediately put a drumstick on his plate to Qin Zhao. "No, you eat," Qin Zhao said calmly. But just then a big guy walked over and grabbed the drumstick from Qin Zhao's plate, eating it right away. "It's not your fault." The big guy looked down at Qin Zhao. "Newbie, you don't seem to understand what this place is." Bullying newcomers was a prison rule. Whether it was in China or abroad, the rules were the same. Han Bao, as a veteran of the prison industry, was very knowledgeable about prisons and had a lot of feelings for them. After all, Han Bao had been in prison for 15 years. Of course, it wasn't because he committed a crime. "This is a prison, a place for bastards." "Ah. You also know that it's a place for assholes, so you should know that I'm an asshole." The big guy patted Qin Zhao's head lightly. "Ha!" Qin Zhao had already smashed the plate into the big guy's face. All the prisoners looked at Qin Zhao. However, no one was surprised by this. In this place there would be a fight almost every day. Even the prison guards weren't surprised. So they didn't care about the fights. Of course, if someone hit too hard, they'd be locked up. The big guy climbed up and wiped the food off his face. His expression was ferocious. "Bastard, I'm going to kill you." With that, the big guy pounced at Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao reached out and grabbed the guy's chest, slamming him heavily onto the ground. Bang! The entire cafeteria could hear the sound of the big guy's intimate contact with the ground. "I forgot to tell you," Qin Zhao said with a faint smile. "I'm also very knowledgeable about killing. Maybe we can discuss it." The big guy reached out to scratch Qin Zhao, but his limbs couldn't reach Qin Zhao. Suddenly, someone hit the back of Qin Zhao's head hard. Qin Zhao turned around and saw a black man hitting him. Qin Zhao pushed forward and the black man fell 3 or 4 meters away, landing heavily on the ground. But another person came up to attack Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao lifted his hand and threw it again, smashing it onto the big guy's body. Another one seeking his own death, and another one. Qin Zhao used one move after another, piling them all on the big guy's body. After knocking down 6 people in a row, no one else continued to attack Qin Zhao. Just then, the prison guard on the second floor knocked on the metal bars with his baton. "Stop, you bastards. Don't look for trouble." The prison guards also liked to watch fights, but they would stop it before it got out of hand. Qin Zhao took the lunches of the 6 prisoners he'd knocked down. Under everyone's gaze, he ate all 6 lunches. Morocco stared at Qin Zhao with wide eyes. Not only could this guy fight, but he could also eat. In prison, there were usually 3 types of prisoners. The other type was that those who had gangs outside would form their own cliques after entering prison. Other prisoners were basically unwilling to provoke these cliques, and they wouldn't actively provoke other prisoners either. Another type was those who were better at fighting. They would gather a group of people and wouldn't provoke the cliques. Instead, they would provoke newcomers and those who were easier to bully. The third type was those who were easy to bully. There were also people like Qin Zhao who looked like they were easy to bully. Of course, after this battle, there shouldn't be anyone who would think that way anymore. Although a prisoner like the big guy had been taught a lesson by Qin Zhao, this was too common in prison. However, this kind of thing was too common in prison and it was always bullying. There wasn't any life or death feud. After this, they might not become friends, but they wouldn't become enemies either. Just like in the movies, after being beaten up, you would stab someone with a knife. This would never happen in real life. Prisoners weren't stupid either. They wouldn't seek death. In prison, there weren't many prisoners who would want to take their opponent down with them just because they'd been beaten up. Qin Zhao suddenly slapped his head. He could have been released for medical treatment. He should have been beaten up by these bastards and then released for medical treatment. Morocco, who was sitting opposite Qin Zhao, was shocked. He didn't know why Qin Zhao had such a sudden reaction. Qin Zhao looked at the big guy and the others with a bitter expression. Seeing Qin Zhao's gaze, the big guy and the others couldn't help but shiver. Chapter 1248. Lingam, you're really something. Inro patted his partner's shoulder. That yellow-skinned monkey must be regretting it now. Never in his wildest dreams would he think that he'd end up in jail for no reason. Lingam crossed his legs and drank his whiskey nonchalantly. He'd worked with Inro many times. Inro knew his abilities. Of course, it was more like hiring than working together. Each time, Inro would pay him tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Here's your check for this trip. Lingam glanced at the check and pocketed it. Suddenly Lingam's brows twitched as a very bad feeling crept into his heart. Lingam stood up abruptly. Someone's trying to find my location. What do you mean? Inro wasn't a spiritualist, so he didn't really understand. Lingam's special bloodline allowed him to change into someone else's appearance after coming into contact with them. This ability was almost unsolvable for ordinary people. But for spiritualists there were ways such as divination. However, Lingam had telepathy. If someone used divination to find his location, he'd immediately sense it. Divination could indeed lock onto a person's location to a large extent, but it could only lock onto a temporary location. It couldn't be tracked, so Lingam only needed to change his location and the person would miss him. Let's leave immediately, Lingam said. Do we have to leave now? Yes, we have to. Inro hurriedly packed his things and left the rental house with Lingam. 20 minutes after they left, West, Alice and Klaus came in. Where is he? Did he run away? Klaus kept his hands behind his back. He looked around the rental house to make sure there was no one. Is it a coincidence? Or did he notice that we're following him? Call Alice first and ask her if she can divine it again. Mr. West, don't touch that first. We can find fingerprints on it. What's the use of fingerprints? West asked, confused. That person can change his face, but his fingerprints might not be the same. I need to confirm if his fingerprints are in the government's archives. If they are, I might be able to find his various records, including his real identity and what kind of car he has now. What's the point of knowing what car he's using now? We don't know where he is, so it's pointless. Mr. West, don't you know that surveillance cameras can automatically identify license plates? Huh? Lingam's hair stood on end again. Not again. Damn it, who's divining me? Lingam didn't feel good at all. To be able to divine him continuously, it was very likely that the other party was a spiritualist stronger than him, or even a witch. Lingam himself was a spiritualist, but he did not know much about the supernatural world. Most of the people he came into contact with were the elders of the family. His family elders had always warned him not to have any conflict with witches. Their family was not a powerful spiritualist family. If he encountered a witch who was extremely aggressive, then he would hide and escape as much as he could. Never think of provoking a witch. If she was divined 3 times in a row in a short period of time, then she was most likely a witch. Generally speaking, wizards did not have such powerful magic power. Inro, drive in another direction, Lingam said to Inro, who was driving. Lingam, what's going on? Someone's using magic to track us, Lingam said. Inro was shocked. You mean there's someone else with special abilities besides you? You think I'm unique in this world? Lingam looked at Inro as if he was an idiot. What do we do now? It's okay. As long as we keep changing locations, that person won't be able to find us. Then if he keeps using magic to track us, we won't even be able to stop, right? He can't keep using magic to track us. At most 3 or 4 times. As soon as Lingam finished, the feeling came again. Damn it, it's only been a while and it's here again. Lingam told Inro to change directions again. But not long after, Lingam felt it again. Bastard, who's looking for me? What does he want? Isn't he tired of using divination so recklessly? Bastard, he changed locations again. This guy can sense my divination? Alice said in surprise. Can't you determine his location? Gaia asked. He seems to be constantly moving. Every time I finish divination, he'll change directions. What should we do? It's okay. He has to stop eventually. I'll just keep doing it. You keep using divination. Can your magic power hold up? He's very weak. I can do it for the whole night. The mana cost of divination was related to the target's mana. If the target's mana was 1, then the cost would be 1 too. If it was 10, then the cost would be 10 too. Alice estimated her own mana cost. The person's mana should be less than 30. This was even lower than the lowest mana of the supernatural organization's members before Qin Zhao's era. Now, Alice's mana was as high as 350. It consumed less than 30 points of magic power each time, which was no problem for Alice. Basically, she could use divination every 10 minutes to recover her mana. Therefore, she could use divination infinitely. Of course, except when she was eating, sleeping, or going to the toilet. Alice worked especially hard too. After all, she was an early member and her magic was special. Alice wasn't a combat witch, although she could attack. She wasn't a support type witch either. She was a functional witch. Sealing, divination, and prediction spells were her forte. At the same time, she belonged to the magic encyclopedia. Of course, because it wasn't complete, many spells weren't complete. He changed directions again. He seems to be leaving the city. He's on Route 122 now. Route 122? That road should lead to Compton, Gaia said, holding the map. You said that he'll change directions every time you do divination, right? Yes, Gaia analyzed. It was originally at Shilin Street, then here, and finally Highway 122. Gaia's eyes flashed. She pointed at the map. Alice, next divination after 30 minutes. Don't do it before then. Chapter 1249. Qin Zhao was depressed. After the fight, he'd wanted to continue provoking Big Guy and his gang. But they were all terrified. This doesn't seem to be the same as what I know. Qin Zhao wanted to get beaten up. But in this prison, no one was willing to fight him anymore. As a result, Qin Zhao didn't have a good appetite during dinner. He ate unhappily. Boss Qin, are you full? Morocco asked. Do you need me to get you some food? No need. Qin Zhao was very unhappy. He kept staring at Big Guy and his gang. Big Guy and his gang kept their heads down, not daring to meet Qin Zhao's eyes. Boss Qin, there's a boxing match tonight. What kind of match? Qin Zhao asked, confused. It's organized by the prison guards. The contestants are all serious criminals. Qin Zhao wasn't a serious criminal. He was just a suspect now. Before he was convicted, he wasn't a real guest here. Generally, the felons in the prison lived separately from the ordinary prisoners. They would only go together when they had to eat or when they were out for a walk. Nothing will happen? Of course. Every year, a few people die on the stage, Morocco said. But so what? Yeah, so what? Even in a country with relatively complete laws like America, there were still many dark people. But the prison guards can't force you to participate in this match, right? The prison guards have their ways. Which serious criminal doesn't want their sentence reduced? Every time they reduce their sentence, the prison has to issue an evaluation form. The prison guards have the absolute right to decide. Are you familiar with this prison? I've been here at least 6 times, Morocco said. The longest time was 2.5 years. After dinner, Qin Zhao and Morocco returned to their cells. Around 10 at night, there was the sound of a baton knocking on the cell door. A prison guard poked his head in. Are you asleep? Neither Qin Zhao nor Morocco was asleep. No, Morocco replied. At this moment, the cell door was opened. Knock, knock. The guard knocked on the door again, then left. What does he mean? He's asking if we're going or not. If we're going, go to the cafeteria. If not, close the door. There were so many rules in this prison. However, he still wanted to see the world, so he went to the cafeteria with Morocco. At this time, the tables and chairs in the canteen had been pushed to the corner. 40 to 50 prisoners were standing on the tables and chairs beside them. A dozen prison guards were standing in front of the bars on the second floor. A short convict was walking among the other prisoners, collecting gambling money. This short prisoner was probably the prison guard's lackey. Help the prison guards open the gambling house and collect the gambling money. Qin Zhao was quite surprised that these criminals actually had cash. Moreover, it was like a regular boxing match. There was even a host holding a microphone, introducing the first 2 contestants to the audience and gamblers. Qin Zhao heard that people didn't use their fists in underground fights. However, the fighters in this prison boxing match were wearing masks. The rate of death and disability without gloves was too high. If the prison guards organized a boxing match, they probably wouldn't earn more than $10,000. However, if one person died, the various procedures and arrangements would be very troublesome, and the gains would not make up for the losses. Therefore, the boxing match was still carried out in a more formal way, and there were also referees. Of course, rather than calling it a boxing match, it would be more accurate to call it a freestyle fight. Most of the rules were also freestyle fights. Apart from not stabbing the eyes or attacking the lower body, all attacks were allowed. Qin Zhao had thought that he would be able to see a bloody fight, but he was still somewhat disappointed. The fight to the death like in movies and TV dramas did not appear. Of course, it might also be because there weren't many benefits. Boss Qin, do you want to buy some to play? The short convict asked Qin Zhao. I don't have money. Qin Zhao had everything in his spatial ring except cash. Boss Qin, I do. Where did you get the money? Qin Zhao saw Morocco take out a stack of money. It was at least $1,000. Qin Zhao had heard from Morocco that he had robbed a convenience store for a few $100s and even injured an employee. How could he have more than $1,000 now? Qin Zhao found it unbelievable. I'm here to help someone bring goods. Qin Zhao was stunned. This guy was helping someone bring drugs into prison? However, Qin Zhao couldn't be bothered with Morocco. Morocco wasn't anyone to him. They weren't even friends. How did you bring it in? Qin Zhao asked curiously. But Morocco bet $100 for Qin Zhao and also bought $100 for himself. How much can you earn each time you bring goods? $10,000. Qin Zhao was speechless. He had to bring at least $50,000 worth of goods to get $10,000 in shipping fees, right? Qin Zhao wasn't in this business, but he still knew about the prices of these black industries. After all, Qin Zhao would occasionally buy goods from them. Morocco had to stuff at least 2,000 pills in his butt. The match began. The two fighters in the ring were both death row convicts. When Qin Zhao heard their information, he wanted to kill the two death row criminals. The fight in the ring was very intense. They almost gave up on defense and used fierce attacks to hurt each other. To be honest, Qin Zhao had probably killed more people than everyone else here combined. However, Qin Zhao really couldn't see what was so interesting about this fist-to-flesh fight. The surrounding convicts, including Morocco, were all roaring hysterically, as if they were influenced by the fight in the ring. This match used the rule of one round to the end. There were no breaks in the middle. After 10 minutes of intense fighting, one of them fell to the ground, his face covered in blood. The winner raised his hands and roared at the people around him. Only Qin Zhao watched the match expressionlessly. The surrounding audience also cheered in unison. The winner looked around and suddenly saw Qin Zhao, who was facing everything coldly. The winner pointed at Qin Zhao with his gloves and made a provocative gesture. Everyone looked at Qin Zhao. What does he mean? Boss Qin, he's challenging you? Oh, so I can fight in the ring? Of course. Anyone is welcome to fight in the ring. Qin Zhao walked to the bottom of the ring and jumped onto it. The host introduced Qin Zhao cooperatively. He also told them about Qin Zhao's achievement of defeating 6 people this afternoon. Chapter 1250. Qin Zhao suddenly looked up because he smelled magic in the air. It was very faint, but it couldn't escape Qin Zhao's senses. Looking at the excited prisoners and prison guards around him, Qin Zhao was sure that someone was using magic here. He didn't know what the purpose was. Poof! Just as Qin Zhao was distracted, a fist punched his face. He didn't feel any pain, but to Qin Zhao, this was a great humiliation. Qin Zhao punched back and knocked the person to the ground. The scene quieted down immediately. No one expected the competition to end so suddenly. Qin Zhao looked around again but didn't see anyone suspicious. Whatever, it had nothing to do with him. Qin Zhao couldn't be bothered to ask. Plus, he was a prisoner now. What right did he have to care who was doing what? At the moment, Inro and Lingam were on their way out of the city. Suddenly, Lingam's body trembled. That feeling came again. Again? Should we change direction? Inro was already used to it. We can't change direction. Lingam shook his head. There's still a lot of traffic in our direction, but there's clearly much less traffic going into the city. If we change direction, we might be discovered. Lingam analyzed. Let's keep going in this direction. Lingam, where are we going? If we keep being sensed by other people using magic like this, we'll be found sooner or later. It's okay, Lingam said. This time, the person's divination took half an hour. It means that he's starting to get tired. He was very confident in his analysis. He can't keep divining forever. As long as we leave LA, it'll be hard for him to continue tracking us. If he divines again, we'll return to LA and the person chasing us will be tired of running. Lingam, do you know who's chasing us? No. Lingam had always been afraid of this. He didn't want to talk about it in front of Inro. Because he was afraid that Inro would leave him. Because he didn't know how to drive. This was the crux of the matter. If Inro were to separate from him, there would be no one to drive him. Then it would be very troublesome to change direction quickly. So Lingam didn't want Inro to know that the person chasing him was very powerful. But just as Lingam had feared, Inlor was behaving like this. He did not want to run around with Lingam. Lingam, don't you think we should split up and run? Are you sure he's only looking for me? It's possible that they're trying to capture both of us at the same time. I can sense their divination, but you can't. Perhaps you've already been divined many times before this. If I wasn't here, I'm afraid you'd have already fallen into their hands, Lingam said. Inro's expression changed slightly when he heard Lingam's words. Indeed, if Lingam wasn't around, they might have captured him. At the same time, the members of the Lightning Squad were patrolling the roads leading into and out of the city on Highway 122. If it was during the day, it would be hard to find him with the traffic in downtown Los Angeles. But at night, the traffic flow was relatively less. Therefore, it was very easy to find them on the roads leading into and out of the city. Klaus had found both Inro and Lingham's fingerprints at their residence. And Lingham's fingerprints were in the FBI's files. Lingham was also a repeat offender. But these files were all from before the age of 18. After the age of 18, Lingham had turned into a good young man with no criminal records. Through the bank spending records, Klaus also found out that Lingham had bought a car not long ago, but Lingham didn't have a driver's license. That meant that Lingham had other accomplices. This information was obtained by West through the authority of the Anti-Terrorism Department. Zella, there's a car 5 kilometers ahead of you. It looks like the car we're tracking. Chase after it and take a look. Also, don't approach recklessly. We're not sure if the other party is an attack-type spiritualist or some other type. Don't take the risk. Okay, got it, Zella replied. Klaus had obtained the real-time monitoring authority of the highway system. He had been in charge of monitoring and commanding. There's a car behind us. Inro saw the headlights behind them. Lingham's expression changed slightly. Just then, his body once again felt the divination of his pursuer. Turn into the woods at the junction ahead. Inro immediately turned when he reached the junction. But they suspected that it was the car following them, so they also turned into the forest path. This time they finally confirmed that the car behind them was really following them. What do we do now? Keep driving, Lingham said. We're running out of gas. Why didn't you say so earlier? Lingham grumbled. Do I even need to say it? We've been driving for 5 or 6 hours. Inro also had some complaints in his heart. He felt that this had nothing to do with him. It was all Lingham's trouble. Not long after, the car completely ran out of gas and stopped. Inro and Lingham immediately took out their pistols. Although they were both scammers, they always carried guns with them for self-defense. Zella, who was in the car behind, saw Inro and Lingham get out of the car in front and the pistols in their hands. He instantly felt that it was ridiculous. They were actually using guns in front of him? If they were using magic, he might be afraid, but they were actually using guns. Gaia, where are you now? I've already found them. Their car seems to have run out of gas. They seem to be resisting and have guns in their hands. Zella also had guns in his car, but he didn't plan to use them. After all, they were trying their best to capture them alive, not kill them. At this moment, Inro and Lingham were also unsure. They had almost never used guns. The two of them slowly approached Zella's car with guns raised. Get out of the car now. Now. Zella got out of the car. He raised his hands and smiled at Inro and Lingham. Who are you? Why are you following us? Zella looked at the two with calm eyes. Why are we following you? Oh, you should know what you've done. I don't care who you are. Get on the ground now. Now hurry up. The two planned to snatch Zella's car and then leave. Unfortunately, Zella still stood there with his hands raised. I advise you to put down your guns. Chapter 1251. Don't waste time with him. Get in the car. Inro pushed Zella away. Zella didn't use any strength and let Inro push him away. As soon as they got in the car, they realized that Zella had a gun. Not a small pistol like theirs, but a machine gun. Why isn't he fighting back? He's definitely out of bullets. Yes, for clips. The two looked at Zella, who was standing outside the car. Their expressions were a bit unnatural. But Zella's smile was very natural and he kept smiling. Lingham suddenly got out of the car and pointed his gun at Zella. Why aren't you fighting back? Kid, you obviously don't know what you're facing. Zella still had that smile. But his smile made Lingham's hair stand on end. Lingham, let's go. Don't waste time. Suddenly, the dark forest path was suddenly enveloped by a red light. Lingham and Inro looked up at the sky at the same time. Then they saw a ball of fire fall from the sky. Inro scrambled down from the car. Boom, the fire fell on the roof of the car. Zella took 2 steps back and fanned the heat. Lingham and Inro were hit by the heat and fell to the ground. They felt like their bodies were about to fall apart. When they turned around, they saw a tall woman standing on the roof of the car with flames all over her body. This woman was like the legendary goddess of war, looking down on all beings in the flames. Gaia, it took me a lot of effort to modify this car. Gaia shrugged. The landing failed. I've been practicing landing in human form recently and couldn't do it accurately. Lingham stood up with difficulty and looked at Gaia in fear. He turned around and ran into the forest. Not chasing? He's running in the direction that Helith is coming from. I think we should stop him. Helith respects the chairman the most. Are you sure Helith won't kill this guy? Helith knows what she's doing. Inro twisted his butt and tried to sneak away. Suddenly, a great sword fell in front of Inro. If you want to lose a limb, keep crawling. Gaia looked down at Inro. Extremely tragic screams came from the forest. Inro was startled. It was Lingam's voice. Then he saw Lingam running away frantically. Inro saw the look on Lingam's face. It was obvious that he had encountered something even more terrifying in the woods. Not long after, Helios walked out of the forest. Gaia, can I kill him? If we kill him, Chin won't be able to come out. Alright, we'll wait for the guild leader to come out before we kill him. Harrow compromised. Who the hell are you people? How much do you want? I can give you however much you want. $100,000 US? No, $500,000. Boss Chin, you're amazing. The man you just beat up was a professional boxer before he went to prison. Professional boxer? Even if the boxing champion came, he would still be defeated. Is that guy famous? Boss Chin, don't you see the news? That guy is a very famous boxer. What crime did he commit to get in here? He raped his own daughter. Fuck, I should have killed him just now. That kind of scum. I hope he can meet White Nightmare. What White Nightmare? Qin Zhao asked curiously. Qin Zhao had seen nightmares before, but he had never heard of a White Nightmare. Norma had the bloodline of nightmares. She could turn her soul into a nightmare. I haven't seen it either, but in this prison, there is a legend about the White Nightmare nightmares. It is said that the White Nightmare nightmares will enter the prisoners' cells and kill them. Every time someone dies in the prison, someone will say that the White Nightmare nightmares did it. The last time I came here, someone died. A prisoner said that his roommate was killed by the White Nightmare nightmares. Every prison had all kinds of legends, but most of them were made up. When he was fighting in the ring, Qin Zhao had indeed felt magic. However, it wasn't strong and he didn't feel any evil aura. People often said that words were like the person. Some people could tell a person's state of mind and emotions from words. Relatively speaking, words couldn't completely tell a person's good or evil, but magic could. For example, Qin Zhao's magic was filled with violence and madness. Gaia's magic was scorching and determined. Helisa's magic was obscure and impure. Alice had told Qin Zhao that some spiritualists would go to special places to practice magic. For example, prisons were often visited by people who practiced black magic. Practicing black magic didn't mean that they were evil. For example, Helis was the representative of black magic. Her magic was impure, but it wasn't evil. Whatever, let's not talk about this. It's so uncomfortable to talk about this at night. After the lights went out, Qin Zhao heard Morocco mumbling. At the same time, an ethereal aura appeared. Qin Zhao turned his head and saw wisps of white gas seeping in from the crack of the door. The white gas gradually gathered into a white creature. The creature was as white as snow and had a cat's head. It wasn't tall, less than 80 centimeters, and it stood upright. It looked like a cat demon. The creature bounced lightly and stuck to the wall. Then it jumped to the ceiling and hung upside down. It walked a few steps upside down on the ceiling until it was above Morocco. Then it swooped down. The cat demon wasn't invisible. Morocco could feel it when it fell. Morocco opened his eyes and saw the cat demon on him. He opened his mouth, but he couldn't make a sound. He couldn't even move. The cat demon reached out with its claws and slowly grabbed Morocco's neck. Morocco wanted to struggle, but he couldn't move at all. It was as if a ghost was pressing down on him. His body tensed up. The cat demon was very small. It probably didn't weigh more than 20 kilograms. Normally, a creature of this size wouldn't be able to harm Morocco's body at all. Morocco was 1.8 meters tall, but he weighed 110 kilograms. He was more than 10 times the cat demon's weight. However, the cat demon's seemingly weak claws made it hard for him to breathe when it grabbed Morocco's neck. Help, help me, Morocco turned his head with difficulty. He wanted to cry for help, to ask Qin Zhao for help. But his voice was very weak and he had trouble breathing like a drowning person. However, he saw that Qin Zhao seemed to be looking at him. Morocco couldn't make a sound. He could only move his mouth to ask for help. Suddenly, the cat demon realized that Qin Zhao was looking at it too. Hiss, hiss, the cat demon hissed at Qin Zhao. Chapter 1252. Qin Zhao thought that he'd been preparing for a long time and could definitely capture it. Unexpectedly, the cat demon was also very fast. It leaped and dodged Qin Zhao's attack. At the same time, it reached out with its claws and scratched Qin Zhao's arm. But it didn't even break Qin Zhao's skin. Qin Zhao grabbed again, even faster this time. Seeing that it couldn't beat Qin Zhao, the cat leaped onto the ceiling and jumped to the door. Then it turned into white smoke and escaped through the crack. Whoosh, Morocco bounced up, fear written all over his face. Boss Qin, white nightmare, white nightmare. That's a white nightmare. It wants to kill me, it wants to kill me. Morocco was really frightened. He'd thought that he'd die for sure. If Qin Zhao hadn't chased the white nightmare away, he'd definitely be dead. Qin Zhao pursed his lips. He pinched Morocco's chin and looked at the mark on his neck. The mark wasn't deep, but it left a bruise. I won't die. Time to sleep. Qin Zhao lay back on the bed. Morocco couldn't sleep now. He pushed Qin Zhao. Boss Qin, don't sleep. What if the white nightmare comes again? You're disturbing my sleep. Do you want to die? Qin Zhao turned around and glared at Morocco. No. Boss Qin, what if the white nightmare comes to attack you? I'll kill whoever disturbs my sleep, whether it's you or it. Qin Zhao glared at Morocco. Fuck off. Don't disturb my sleep. Morocco wanted to cry. Qin Zhao was his only support. Qin Zhao was fearless, but Morocco, who just escaped from the gates of hell, didn't dare to close his eyes. He couldn't sleep for the entire night. He curled up in a corner of the bed, not daring to close his eyes. The next day after breakfast, it was time to relax. Morocco had completely become Qin Zhao's lackey. He followed Qin Zhao closely. He'd really been frightened last night. After a night of thinking, he felt that Qin Zhao wasn't a normal person. How could a normal person not be afraid in that situation? Yes, maybe Qin Zhao was an Eastern wizard. Maybe he'd come to the prison on purpose to capture the white nightmare. 013, someone's here to see you, the alarm said. 013 was Qin Zhao's number. Qin Zhao went to the visiting area. It wasn't the kind of place where people communicated through a glass. Instead, there was a table and 2 chairs facing each other. There were already a few prisoners in the visiting room. Qin Zhao saw David sitting in front of the table and walked over. Qin, did you know that Inro, who was supposed to be dead, surrendered to the police last night? He's not dead? No, and he's not injured at all. He's perfectly fine. He's already confessed. In order to frame you, he purposely hired someone who looks like you and staged that farce. However, he seems to be quite frightened. When can I go out? I'm working on the paperwork for you now. You'll be able to leave this afternoon. Can you slow it down a bit? Alright, send Inro to this prison. Previously, Qin Zhao had been scheming to get out, but now that he could, he didn't want to leave so soon. Let me out tomorrow, Qin Zhao said. Don't kill anyone, David said. I don't want you to go to jail. Don't worry, I won't. After hearing David's news, Qin Zhao relaxed. However, West also told Feilai that he was going on a secret mission and would need 2 or 3 days. If he went back now, Feilai would be suspicious. Qin Zhao always reported only the good news to Feilai. After all, Feilai was pregnant now. Qin Zhao didn't want her emotions to fluctuate too much. Boss Qin, why are you so happy? When Morocco saw that Qin Zhao had returned from the visit, the gloom on his face seemed to have dissipated. His face was filled with sunshine. The asterisk shoal who framed me will be sent here in the afternoon. Qin Zhao's smile suddenly turned cruel. Someone dares to frame you, Boss Qin? Not before, but this time there really is. Suddenly, Morocco's expression turned very ugly. Boss Qin, are you going out soon? Yes, tomorrow. Morocco became anxious. Then, what if the white nightmare comes to find me again tonight? Qin Zhao glanced at Morocco. To be honest, in the past, Qin Zhao definitely wouldn't care about someone like Morocco. However, people's thinking would change when they were in a different environment. Qin Zhao now felt that Morocco wasn't that bad. You only robbed a few $100s. You'll only be locked up for a few days, right? I'll bail you out, Qin Zhao said. No. I also hurt someone. I'll probably be locked up for half a year, Morocco said with a sad face. Didn't you come here to deliver the goods? Why did you hurt someone? I robbed and hurt someone. Then a local leader found me and told me to deliver a batch of goods. Earn $10,000 and get locked up for half a year? I really don't know what you're thinking. Qin Zhao shook his head. Tell me, how much money do you need to bail you out? Probably more than $50,000. Qin Zhao thought for a moment and said, I can lend you money, but you have to return me the bail money after you go to court. For Qin Zhao and Morocco, this was a temporary prison. After being sentenced in court, they would most likely be transferred to another prison. America's crime rate had always been high. It also had the most prisoners in the world. There were more than 4 million prisoners, so there were also many prisons. There were more than 30 prisons in Los Angeles alone. Usually, the bigger the city, the more people there were and the more criminals there were. Of course, there were more prisons too. Unless Morocco's luck was extremely bad, he would not be assigned here again. Usually, the judicial system would randomly assign prisoners to prisons. Unless it was a military prison or a special prison, most prisons would be assigned to those with more empty rooms. Morocco had been to prison 6 times before. Two of them had been to this prison. If his luck was really that bad, Qin Zhao couldn't do anything about it. Qin Zhao had already done his best to help him pay the bail money. If he came here again, Qin Zhao wouldn't go to prison to protect him. Also, the White Nightmare was hard to deal with. It wasn't that she was strong, but that she was slippery and hard to catch. Hey, that big guy over there. Come here. Qin Zhao saw the big guy he'd beaten up yesterday and waved. The big guy didn't dodge anymore. He ran to Qin Zhao's side. Boss Qin, what's up? Are there any gay men in your underlings? Boss Qin, do you like gay men? The big guy asked, surprised. Chapter 1253. The big guy immediately understood. He didn't have to say it out loud. Plus, it wasn't his first time taking on something like this. In prison, those with power would be respected. It was the law of the jungle in prison. Either they could fight like Qin Zhao. Either that or he had a powerful background to begin with. Qin Zhao had only been in prison for less than 2 days. However, Qin Zhao had already gotten to know 2 people who were very influential in the outside world. Of course, they were both in the underworld. They weren't friends, but they still got to know each other. This was mutual respect. If you don't mess with me, I won't mess with you. Occasionally, when they were out, they would throw a cigarette over. Usually, the gangsters who came from the outside wouldn't bully newcomers like the big guy. They had their own enemies, which were usually the bosses of rival gangs. In this prison with a few hundred people, there were more than a dozen gangs. They were either allies or enemies. So, they wouldn't offend others for no reason. There were also 2 or 3 gangsters who came to get close to Qin Zhao and ask about his background. Because of what happened last night, Enro was already scared out of his wits. He didn't expect the people who captured him to be Qin Zhao's subordinates. At first he thought that Qin Zhao was rich, but Qin Zhao was a foreigner. So Qin Zhao wouldn't have any power. He didn't expect that none of Qin Zhao's subordinates were normal. All of them were as scary as demons. If he didn't give himself up, they'd eat him alive. Enro wanted to cry but had no tears. Sitting in the escort car, he was at a loss for what to do. After arriving at the prison, he went through the procedures and also had a physical and drug test. Enro was brought into the cell by the prison guard. Go in. You'll live in this room. Enro entered the room and saw the person he didn't want to see the most in his life. Why are you here? Why am I here? Qin Zhao found it funny. Why are you surprised? Why am I here? Morocco looked at Enro fiercely. Enro was the one who made a throat-cutting gesture. Mr. Qin, I'm sorry. It was my fault earlier. Please forgive me. Forgive you? Why should I forgive you? Qin Zhao sneered. If you want to use this method to make me spend 10 years in prison, then I'll make you die here. Enro was about to piss his pants. Qin Zhao was even more evil than he'd imagined. Even if you don't die in prison, I guarantee that you will die on the first day you walk out of prison. Qin Zhao really wanted to kill. He had seen all kinds of demons and ghosts, but this time he almost fell into the hands of a swindler. How could he let the matter rest? Enro was so scared that his face turned pale. Take off your pants first. Morocco grinned at Enro. Enro subconsciously covered his butt. What are you doing? Enro's tragedy was only the beginning. Qin Zhao was very vengeful. At noon, Big Guy took the lead and came looking for trouble. In the face of a few burly men, Enro could only obediently endure. But at dinner time, the Big Guy came looking for trouble again. After that, they went to the bathhouse to take a shower. Enro's tragedy had only just begun. In the past, Qin Zhao hated things like rape. But he didn't have any sympathy for Enro at all. In the past, Enro specialized in cheating money from women. Moreover, it wasn't just a little bit of money but all the money of others. He even made women owe huge sums of money and then disappear from the world. Qin Zhao really couldn't feel sympathy for such a person. Qin Zhao watched as Enro covered his butt and went back to his cell with a pained expression. You felt great. Morocco smiled knowingly and also looked at Enro with evil intentions. But when the lights went out, Morocco couldn't smile anymore. It was another sleepless night. The next day, Morocco and Qin Zhao were released together. However, Qin Zhao was released without charge, while Morocco was released on bail. When he went to court, he still had to go to prison. After leaving the prison, Morocco looked at Qin Zhao. Boss Qin, where are you going next? Someone's coming to pick me up. I'm leaving first. Remember, you have to pay me the bail money. Klaus' car was parked nearby. Morocco saw that Qin Zhao had a special car to pick him up and the person who picked him up didn't look like an ordinary person. Although Morocco himself was an unemployed person with a lot of criminal records, Morocco still had some foresight. He could tell that the person who picked Qin Zhao up was probably a retired soldier. And from their attitude, that person should be Qin Zhao's bodyguard. Is Lingam in the headquarters now? Yes. Klaus nodded. Good, then let's go to the headquarters. Klaus saw Qin Zhao's murderous expression. It was better not to talk to Qin Zhao now. When they reached the headquarters, the members all stopped what they were doing and came out to greet Qin Zhao when they heard that he was back. Bring that asterisk shoal out. Lingam had already been dragged out by Klaus. Lingam was unharmed. It wasn't because the members of the association were soft-hearted. It was because Lingam was waiting for Qin Zhao's punishment. What's you? Qin Zhao remembered that this man had bumped into his shoulder before entering the bar that day. Lingam's face was pale. If he knew that Qin Zhao had so many scary people under his control, he wouldn't have offended Qin Zhao. It was only $50,000. He had to face such a scary group of people for $50,000? Mr. Qin. How do you want to die? Qin Zhao asked. Lingam's face turned even paler and he trembled all over. Just then, dark clouds gathered in the sky above the headquarters. Everyone jumped in fright and immediately backed away from Lingam. Lingam didn't know what had happened, but the dark clouds above the headquarters made him feel very pressured. The clouds started turning into thunderstorm clouds. Rumbling sounds rose and fell. Choose. Be struck by lightning, eaten by demons, ground into pieces by a meat grinder, or I'll throw you into the sky. No. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Don't want to die? That's not up to you. Qin Zhao stared coldly at Lingam. Hurry up and decide. I can pledge my loyalty to you. I can do many things for you. I don't need it. Qin Zhao rejected Lingam's request without hesitation. Qin Zhao pointed at the sky. A bolt of lightning fell from the sky and hit his finger. Chapter 1254. Qin Zhao pointed at Lingam, lightning flashing on his fingertips. Lingam trembled like a sieve. Wait. Lingam finally yelled, I'll trade something for my life. What? The Devil's Grimoire, Lingam exclaimed. The Devil's Grimoire passed down through my family? What? President, the Demon Bible is a magic book that borrows demonic power, but it doesn't record it. Instead, it records all kinds of methods to borrow demonic power, Alice said. In the Dark Age, many royals and nobles were related to demons. Some of the families that have survived to this day have the Demon Bible. Oh, are there many Demon Bible? Not many, but it's not unique, Alice answered. Where's it? Take it out. It's not with me. It's in my family. Lingam looked at Qin Zhao in fear. I can give it to you. No need. Ask your family to bring it. Don't tell me you can't take it out without it, Qin Zhao said. There's nothing that can't be explained with a phone call. If there is, then 2 calls. Lingam lowered his head, his eyes flickering. I'll call. Give him his number, Qin Zhao said. Lingam held the phone and dialed a number. Grandpa, it's me. What's up? A stern voice came from the other end. Grandpa, I did something wrong and was detained by the supernatural organization. They want me to trade the Demon Bible for me. Okay, give me the address. Lingam's grandfather didn't refuse or agree. Instead, he asked for the address. However, Lingam could hear the anger in that calm tone. His family wasn't powerful. After all, the ability to change one's appearance couldn't bring them actual power. Lingam's father was the leader of the family, but his power was average. Lingam's grandfather, Offit, was different. Offit was the owner of the demonic grimoire and the only one in the family who could use the contents of the demonic grimoire. Also, Offit controlled a terrifying organization. Lingam had been afraid of his grandfather since he was young. It wasn't just him. Although Offit wasn't the leader, he was better than him. Even his father acted like a grandson in front of Offit. My grandpa wants the address. Lingam looked at Qin Zhao. Give me the phone. Qin Zhao took the phone. Hello, sir. How are you? Who are you in the supernatural organization? Guild leader. The Lin family changed into my appearance and killed people on the street. I wanted to kill him, but he said that you have some demon Bible. So, either you use the demon Bible to exchange for his life, or I'll chop him up and feed him to the dogs. That's right, Qin Zhao said. Address. Qin Zhao could tell that the old man's tone was rather unfriendly, but he didn't care. If this old man wanted to use force, he would let him reunite with his grandson. After Offit hung up the phone, she nodded. Supernatural organization? Offit had heard of the supernatural organization before. But in the supernatural world, the supernatural organization had never had a strong presence. Offit picked up the phone and dialed a number. Rooney, gather everyone and come to me. It didn't take long for Offit's subordinates to assemble. Boss Offit, is there another mission? Boss Offit, we've been idle for half a year. Where are we going this time? I hope it's Egypt. Last time we failed. This time, after half a year of preparation, we definitely won't fail. I'm ready too. Plus, I've become much more powerful. We definitely won't fail. Offit's subordinates yelled at the same time. Okay, quiet down, Offit interrupted them. We still need some time to prepare for the Egypt mission. This time it's something else. Nicole, you know the supernatural organization, right? Offit looked at a woman in a black dress. She was tall and wore rimless glasses, holding a book. The supernatural organization? Nicole pushed up her glasses. Yes, it's an international organization. Currently there are 13 members in the world. They're China, America, Japan, England. I want to know more about the Supernatural Organization of America. Boss, the organization is very weak. It was founded in 1990 and has been around for 29 years. It's supported by the Anti-Terrorism Department. They've changed their president many times, but because the members are too weak, the president left and abandoned the organization in the end. President, does our mission have anything to do with the organization? They kidnapped my grandson, Offit said. They want me to hand over the demon Bible in exchange for my grandson. What? Are they crazy? God, do they know what they're doing? Offending Boss Offit? I don't understand what they're thinking. Boss Offit, let me go. I'll bring your grandson back in one piece. No, I'll bring my grandson back personally, Offit said coldly. Offit said coldly, perhaps it's because I rarely move around the country that the spiritual world in the country doesn't know about me. Perhaps I need to use this operation to prove my existence to the spiritual world in the country. Yo, Boss Offit is angry. So scary. Boss Offit rarely shows such an expression. Pray for the organization. I hope they won't collapse. Where are they now? I can't wait to see their expressions when they see us. LA, great, we can go to LA now. Everyone was very relaxed. To them this was just a vacation. Boss Offit, do you need a divination? A woman holding a crystal ball asked. Let's do it. Holding the crystal ball, the woman chanted. Suddenly the crystal ball cracked. As if shocked by electricity, the woman hurriedly stopped. What happened? Damn it, I just bought this from a magic shop. That shop sold me low-quality goods. I'm going to smash it. Forget it, Offit said. No need for divination after we return from LA. I'll buy one for you. Okay. Boss Offit, should we go now? I still have some unfinished medicine in my lab, a blue-haired woman with a colorful face said. Chapter 1255. It's up ahead. There were 9 people in the group driving 4 cars, lined up in a straight line. Offit had been resting with her eyes closed. Hearing her subordinate's words, she opened her eyes. Seeing the building ahead, she said coolly, "Smash the metal gate open." Aduz, who was guarding the gate, had already stood up when he saw the 4 cars. He was about to open the gate. But he didn't expect the car at the front to ram in. He was already standing behind the gate. When the car crashed into him, he couldn't dodge in time. The metal door was knocked down, and Aduz, who was behind the metal door, was crushed under it. Aduz's screams reached the headquarters, and when the people there heard it, they immediately rushed out. A few evil spirits had been wandering nearby, but when they heard Aduz's screams, they immediately rushed over. But before the evil spirits could save Aduz, a red light swept past. The evil spirits had been turned to dust. This scene was witnessed by West, who had just come out. He saw 9 people get out of the 4 cars. The leader was a tall old man with a white beard. "Who are you?" West yelled. "Luodu, go." Luodu immediately charged at West. Luodu's poison was very fast. Seeing that he was going to attack him without any explanation, West hurriedly used slow field. In an instant, Luodu's movement stopped, and he stood still on the spot. "Ha, what spell is this?" "Who are you?" West asked again. "You called me here. Why are you asking me who I am?" Offit looked coldly at West. Just then Pamela arrived as well. Seeing the enemy invade, Pamela dove down from the sky toward Luodu. Nicole immediately flipped the book in her hand. A few evil souls rushed out of the book and attacked Pamela. Pamela saw the vile souls approaching. She turned around and let out a shrill scream. In the blink of an eye, those vile souls were destroyed. So strong. This evil spirit is so strong. Nicole's eyes were filled with wariness. Pamela burrowed into Luodu's body. Luodu and Pamela immediately fought for control of the body. But soon Luodu lost control of his body. Crack, crack. Pamela controlled Rodu's body. His bones made crisp sounds. Mr. West, who are they? West heaved a long sigh. I don't know. Hurry up and save Aduz. Offit and the others frowned. What was up with this evil spirit? She had actually taken control of Luodu's body. One must know that Luodu was a spiritualist. Although he wasn't very strong, how could a spiritualist be controlled by an evil spirit so easily? Pamela controlled Rodu's body. It wasn't her body anyway, so she didn't care if it would be hurt. The banshee's aura began to spread throughout Luodu's body. Luodu's face turned pale and his pupils turned white. At this time, more and more people came out of the headquarters. Mr. West, Miss Pamela, what happened? Was Aduz attacked by them? Who are they? I don't know who they are, but they attacked our headquarters first, West said. Save Aduz first. I'll call the chairman. Baka. I will kill them all. Anyone who dares to offend us will be killed. Dongya Tianxi yelled, sword in hand. Old man, you go attract their attention. I'll go save Aduz, Gikira said. Okay. Kill. Dongya Tianxi immediately rushed toward Offit and the others. Offit rubbed his nose. He didn't need to do anything. Behind him, Antaeus had already turned into a 4-meter-tall giant and punched at Dongya Tianxi. Seeing Antaeus attack, Dongya Tianxi raised his sword and slashed at Antaeus. The sword hit Antaeus' fist, but there was only the sound of metal and sparks. Antaeus' fist was unharmed. Antaeus increased his strength and Dongya Tianxi was sent flying. But Dongya Tianxi didn't fall to the ground. After being knocked back a dozen meters, he actually managed to dissipate the force and landed steadily. Antaeus, we're not here to kill, so don't be too heavy-handed, Offit said with a smile. Boss Offit, I can't control my power. Antaeus' voice was majestic, and there was a hint of arrogance in his tone. Antaeus was just like Antaeus, the son of the earth in Greek mythology. As long as his feet were in contact with the ground, he would never feel tired. The earth could bestow him with endless power. At that moment, Gikira had already circled around from the side. She didn't plan to fight. She only wanted to save Aduz, who was under the iron door. But Antaeus didn't plan to let Gikira succeed. Antaeus punched at Gikira. Gikira quickly raised his hammer to meet the attack. Bang! Gikira was also sent flying. She was in a much worse state than Dongya Tianxi. Dongya Tianxi knew how to dissipate the force, but Gikira only knew how to meet force with force. With a single blow, he was sent flying 30 meters away, hitting the outer wall of the headquarters. How dare you cause trouble in the association? Kill. Heraz's voice rang out. Then the lake in the distance began to churn. One by one, skeleton soldiers emerged from the lake. Heraz's undead creatures were all hidden in the water. Because the headquarters wasn't suitable to store these undead creatures, she usually hid them in the lake. Black Witch. Offit raised an eyebrow. Nicole also frowned. This girl who came out from the back was very powerful. It seemed like this supernatural association wasn't as weak as the rumors said. A large number of skeleton soldiers charged at Offit and the others. At that moment, a flash of fire descended from the sky. Boom. A violent explosion rippled out. The expressions of Offit and the others changed again. Such powerful magic. Gaia had rushed back from the set. When she heard that the association had been invaded, she immediately stopped what she was doing. Gaia walked out of the flames step by step. When she saw Aduz, who was pinned under the iron door, Gaia's expression instantly turned furious. This cute little old man was their association's mascot. Gaia raised the tip of her sword and charged at him. Antaeus punched Gaia again. Gaia swept her sword. This time it was Antaeus who was forced back while Gaia was unstoppable. Gaia was about to lift the iron door to save Aduz. Suddenly a force came at Gaia and sent her flying. Although the force was very powerful, Gaia wasn't hurt. Beside Offit was a long-haired woman. Her body was light as she floated slightly in the air. A strong cyclone surrounded her. Trying to save him? The long-haired woman looked at them with contempt. Chapter 1256. The long-haired woman didn't use wind magic but a bloodline ability. She could control the wind and it danced with her. Suddenly a cold light cut through the air. Oh no! The long-haired woman's expression changed drastically. She immediately controlled the wind element and turned it into a chaotic airflow. But the cold light seemed to have eyes and accurately passed through the chaotic airflow. It pierced through the long-haired woman's chest. She grunted and vomited blood. There was an arrow in her shoulder. The long-haired woman looked up and saw a leopard-shaped figure holding a longbow on the rooftop. Just then Gela's skeleton army had arrived and was charging at Offit's group. These skeleton soldiers were very weak. Even Gakira could kill one with one punch, let alone Antaeus. However, they weren't really that weak. Even if they were smashed, they could still reassemble. Also, the reassembly form wasn't like human skeletons. They could take any shape like beasts or even dragons. Gela didn't use her brothers and sisters. She didn't let them get too close to Aduz. She didn't want to hurt Aduz by accident. Klaus and the others did the same. They didn't show themselves, but they had already taken the high ground. As long as they found a chance, they would attack Offit's group. After Gaia was sent flying, she charged forward again. But this time she turned into a fire dragon. Offit and his subordinates' expressions changed when they saw Gaia's fire dragon form. Gaia lay on Antaeus's body. The hot flames made Antaeus howl. Offit was finally moved. The supernatural organization was stronger than he'd imagined. He couldn't keep watching. Offit chanted and turned into a werewolf. This was his first form. He borrowed the power of the Hell Wolf. Seeing Gaia and Antaeus fighting, he was about to attack Gaia. Suddenly, a murderous intent approached. Whoosh! Offit immediately took a step back. A bowl-sized hole appeared on the ground beside him. Sniper. Offit's face darkened. Is everyone in the supernatural organization sneaky like this? West looked at Offit from afar. You said we sneak attacked? In that case, isn't it a sneak attack when you sneak attacked our association? You kidnapped my grandson. So, you're that idiot's grandfather. As expected, like grandson like family. West glanced at Aduz. Aduz's situation wasn't looking good. He could not drag this on any longer. West walked forward. Field of sluggishness. Everyone who was enveloped by his field of sluggishness stopped moving. Gakula, go and save them. Offit wanted to move, but he felt as if his body had been filled with cement. It was difficult for him to move. Offit sensed that the sniper was aiming at him. Offit immediately activated his second demon form, the immortal golem. In an instant, Offit's body turned into stone. At the same time his power increased. Wester immediately felt a huge force being exerted on him. The mana consumption of the slow field was several times higher than before. Gakira had already rescued Aduz while Offit and the others were frozen. But at this moment, West's slow domain finally collapsed. Offit grabbed West and choked him. Now, do you have any other spells? It's meaningless for you to win, Wester said nonchalantly. At the same time he looked up at the sky. You're already in my hands. Do you think it's meaningless? In your hands? You don't seem to understand. I'm not in your hands. You're the one who broke into hell. The Demon King's territory. At this moment, the dark clouds in the sky started to gather. Lightning flashed and thunder roared in the rolling clouds. Gaia suddenly retreated from the battlefield. At this moment, the members of the association also retreated a certain distance. Suddenly, 8 bolts of lightning shot out from the sky and pierced through Offit and his subordinates. The stone on Offit's body collapsed instantly. Wester landed on the ground and adjusted his collar nonchalantly. Offit and his subordinates all clutched their chests and half knelt on the ground in pain. Although the lightning just now wasn't fatal, it still brought them great pain. Antai's body was the strongest and he was the first to recover. Offit and the others felt a terrifying murderous intent behind them. Antaeus, behind you. Antaeus turned and saw a man standing at the gate. With a roar, Antaeus charged at the man. Hiss! Under everyone's gaze, Antaeus was forcefully torn in half. Flesh, blood, and organs splattered everywhere. The man didn't feel like he was tearing apart a person or a giant, but a piece of roasted rabbit meat. Antaeus! The long-haired woman screamed. Antaeus was her husband, but he was killed right in front of her. Instantly, the long-haired woman sank into madness. I'm going to kill you. Boom! A terrifying bolt of lightning fell from the sky and landed on the long-haired woman's head. Ah! The long-haired woman was scorched. Her carbonized body fell to the ground. Who's the leader? Chen Zhao's cold gaze swept across Offit and the others. Offit's expression changed. She chanted a spell. King Kong Demon. Offit's body started to change shape. His skin started to be covered in metal. The dark lava turned into a blade and sliced across the ground. Offit suddenly felt danger and tried his best to move away. But he wasn't faster than the blade in the end. One of his arms was chopped off. Chen Zhao stood at the gate and saw Aduz who was being carried by Genikla. This infuriated Chen Zhao. The dark lava seemed to boil and spread under Offit and the others' feet. Everyone felt like their feet were about to be scorched. They wanted to escape the dark magma-covered ground, but their feet were firmly fixed in place. Ah, ah, everyone was screaming miserably. Regardless of whether they were men or women, all of them were enduring endless pain. Rooney was the first to fall to the ground. A large part of his body came into contact with the dark magma. The dark magma stuck to his skin. Rooney struggled to get up under the intense pain, but his skin couldn't get up with him. Half of his body's skin was torn. Within the dark magma, dark bus still appeared and devoured the corpse. Everyone sank into despair. "Who are you?" Offit cried out in pain. "You came to my territory and asked who I am?" West was only one step away from Offit, but he wasn't affected. The dark lava was less than a meter before him. Chapter 1257. Offit struggled to pull his feet out of the dark lava. By now, the skin on his feet had already peeled off due to the high temperature. The pain was indescribable. But he still endured the pain and let out a low growl. "Boss, Offit is going to use that move? Damn, we're too close. We'll be affected." Offit's subordinates wanted to escape, but their feet were all tied up. They couldn't move at all. Offit raised his arms. His limbs were growing longer and his body was growing larger. He turned into a demon and started breathing. His stomach bulged as he inhaled. Offit's subordinates all covered their ears. Roar! Instantly, Offit released all the air in one breath. It was like the lion's roar in wuxia novels. Offit's subordinates were too close. It wasn't a direct attack, but they still spat out blood. Their mouths, noses and ears were bleeding from Offit's roar. The surging sound waves crashed into Qin Zhao as if they were solid. But Qin Zhao still didn't move. The sound waves could indeed form an impact. But to Qin Zhao it was just a slightly stronger wind. Offit's roar lasted for 10 seconds before it finally stopped. The cement at the entrance of the headquarters was also lifted. Only Qin Zhao remained where he was. Offit and his subordinates all stared at Qin Zhao, dumbfounded. Even such terrifying power couldn't defeat that person? Offit was known as the King of Lions in the international supernatural world. He'd never lost before. But now, an unknown supernatural organization had defeated them. This made everyone feel that this was unreal. Suddenly, another bolt of lightning fell and pierced through Offit. Offit spat out green smoke and fell to the ground. Qin Zhao frowned. Lightning Storm's single-target attack was indeed weak. It couldn't kill a single person. He'd already used his full strength, but the power was still limited. Whatever. Killing them like this would be too easy on them. After Qin Zhao arrived, everyone retreated from the center of the battlefield. They didn't want to be affected by Qin Zhao. Even if Qin Zhao avoided them, they were still afraid that he wouldn't control himself and would be affected. To be honest, they didn't know where this group of people got their courage from. Even if Qin Zhao didn't appear, they were confident that they could keep all of them here. The reason why they had been suppressing their attacks was not because their strength was limited to this. This was because Aduz was still by their side, and the people from the association were afraid that Aduz would be implicated. Rodu's body was controlled by Pamela. After Qin Zhao arrived, he killed 3 more. Now there were 5 people left. 5 people were dragged into the hall and thrown on the ground. When they came, they were arrogant and didn't care about the supernatural organization at all. However, after arriving here, they suddenly realized that the situation was more troublesome than they had imagined. Especially after Qin Zhao's arrival, the situation that could barely be maintained instantly fell apart. Qin Zhao sat in the middle while West and the others sat in rows. It was like an old master attending a court in ancient times. "How is Aduz?" "It's quite serious, but it's stable for now. Gaia will drive Aduz to the hospital now." "Yes." Qin Zhao nodded. "Who are they?" "Oh, President, he's Lingam's grandfather. He's probably here to steal Lingam." Offit and the others all lowered their heads. It was too pitiful. They had lost too miserably. And the other party didn't even know who they were or why they were here. "Bring Lingam out and shove him and his grandson into a meat grinder." "How dare you?" Offit glared at Qin Zhao, gritting her teeth. Qin Zhao's gaze was cold as he looked at Offit casually. "Are you going to use your power to threaten me? Or your family? That's fine. Tell me and I'll be happy to slaughter your family." Everyone looked at Qin Zhao. They had completely different thoughts. Actually, West and the others all knew that Qin Zhao never attacked the innocent. But right now he needed to have an imposing manner. "You might not know, but our president just slaughtered a few hundred people in San Diego half a month ago. Haven't you heard about the gang massacre?" Offit and her subordinates couldn't help but shiver. That incident was so huge that even the spirit world was in a state of panic at the slightest sound. Many people believed that it was done by people from the spirit world, including those from the spirit world themselves. Now, they finally understood who they were going against. This man was a butcher, a demon king. Offit had indeed wanted to use his family to threaten Qin Zhao. But now he really didn't dare to mention his family. If he were to find out about this, his family would most likely be killed as well. This man was a demon. You're a righteous organization. How can you do this? Oh, right, we're a righteous organization. Qin Zhao turned his head and looked at West. In what name should we take revenge? West rolled his eyes. President, we're a righteous organization, but that doesn't mean we'll let people bully us. They're already at our doorstep. We can't just swallow it, right? So our revenge is open and reasonable. There was no absolute justice in this world. Only the victor could decide who was righteous. See, we're righteous, but we have a good reason too. I'll give you the Book of the Demon, Offit finally said after making up her mind. That's not enough. Your grandson Lingam offended me. He was the one who promised to give me the Devil Grimoire, and you guys ambushed our headquarters and injured our people, causing huge losses to our organization. You can't possibly think that we can let this go so easily, right? You killed our people too. I shouldn't have killed them? Qin Zhao's eyes widened. His anger that had just subsided was ignited again. We can compensate your headquarters and the injured people. Qin Zhao rubbed his chin and considered. Should he kill them now or compensate them? Qin Zhao turned to West. West thought for a moment. Compared to Qin Zhao's anger, West was much calmer. He didn't want to kill them all. In fact, Qin Zhao didn't want to kill them all. That was why he wanted West to think of a plan that could let him vent and compensate the organization's losses. Chapter 1258. Qin Zhao didn't have to do anything. He just had to smile. But in Offit's eyes, Qin Zhao's smile was a butcher's. When Offit and the others were sent to prison, Lingam thought that they were here to save him. In the end, they were locked in the dungeon by Klaus and the others. Lingam was dumbfounded. In a way, the grandfather and grandson were reunited. Grandpa, Offit was furious when she saw Lingam. Ignoring the pain on her body, she lifted her leg and kicked Lingam. You asterisk Shoal, how much trouble did you get me into? Don't hit me. Don't hit me. Lingam wanted to cry. Offit's other subordinates, including the unconscious Rodu, were locked in the next cell. Separated by a man and a woman, they were all weak and had their heads lowered. Klaus knocked on the bars. Name, ability, and magic element. Offit, black magic, Offit said with her head lowered. She specializes in borrowing demonic power. After recording for Offit, Klaus went to the next room. There were 3 women in the next room. Name, Klaus said. Nicole Givel. Fustaduya. More Raz. Ability, Klaus said. My power mainly originates from my Book of Holy Spirit. Sealed within the Book of Holy Spirit are countless walkers and ability users. Whenever I need it, I will flip through the corresponding Book of Holy Spirit and borrow the power of the walkers and ability users within, said Nicole. The Book of the Holy Spirit was also the association's spoils of war. It was now in the association's hands. However, only she could use the book. Even if she told others about the book's ability, she wasn't afraid that someone would take it away. I'm a fortune teller, Fusta said. I'm a healer and pharmacist, Moraz said. Healer? What healing spells do you know? Klaus was instantly energized. He knew that West and Qin Zhao had been looking for a healer to join them. He didn't expect that there would be a healer among the captives. Moraz had been frightened tonight. In the past, she'd always been a support. Her companions had protected her well. But who would have thought that what everyone thought was just a vacation would turn into a disaster? I know injury suppression, rapid injury recovery, deferred execution, and holy light glory. These are the main 4 spells. Right now, I'm really practicing purification. What do? Injury suppression can temporarily suppress extremely heavy injuries and reduce the pain. Rapid injury recovery can be used for lighter injuries and can be healed in a short period of time. Deferred execution can be used to delay the death of a person who is on the verge of death. Holy light glory can restore everyone's mana. However, this magic can only be used once a year. This is a magic passed down in my family. Moraz paused and said, purification can remove most poisons, diseases, and curses. Hold on, Klaus put away his notebook and ran upstairs with quick steps. President, among those people there is a woman who is a healer. This is her magic. Take a look. Qin Zhao and West were still talking. Hearing West's words, they perked up. Qin Zhao and West went into the dungeon. Seeing Qin Zhao and West, More Raz and the others could not help but panic. "What's your name?" "More Raz." "Miss Moore, how about joining us?" Qin Zhao could not be bothered to beat around the bush. He went straight to the point and stated his request. More Raz's expression was resistant and his eyes were filled with fear. Definitely don't join them. Especially this butcher. He killed my friend." "You don't want to?" Qin Zhao looked at More Raz indifferently. "Kill them all." Everyone in the cell tensed up and looked at Qin Zhao in fear. "How can you do this?" "That's how I am," Qin Zhao said calmly. "How about this?" West said. "If you join us, we'll reduce their punishment. Of course, how much will depend on your performance. What do you think?" More Raz was about to speak when West interrupted him. "Stop bargaining. Our president doesn't have a good temper." Anyway, Qin Zhao was the bad guy and West was the good guy. Qin Zhao did not mind being the bad guy. More listened to them, Nicole said. After all, she did not want to die. None of them wanted to die. To be honest, she was a bit envious of More. At least More had value, but she could only be locked up here. She could not even control her own fate. More Raz was brought out. Although she still hated Qin Zhao and the supernatural organization, she didn't care. But more than that, she was afraid. Then West arranged a place for More Raz. "You'll live in this room from now on. If you don't listen, our president will definitely take it out on your friend. If you run away, the consequences will be even worse. Do you see the meat grinder below? It's specially prepared for traitors." "How long do I have to serve you?" "Until the president thinks it's enough, or until someone can replace you," West said. "You know that healers are rare. Don't try to challenge our president. Don't look for trouble. If there's an operation, try to participate. If there's no operation, try not to run around. You must listen to the president. You're all scared of that tyrant, right? We can fight against him together. You're all very strong. Together with our boss, we can suppress that tyrant together." "Oh, we're not being oppressed. Why should we fight against our president?" West rolled his eyes. "You should be more obedient. Our president is undefeatable." More Raz felt that they must be afraid of Qin Zhao and did not dare to speak the truth before him. A butcher and demon would not have anyone following him. Never challenge our president's bottom line. Don't do it for your own safety or your friends. When Qin Zhao returned home, Feilai was swimming in the lake. Feilai was already 6 months pregnant, but she still insisted on swimming for 20 minutes every day. However, her stamina was getting worse and worse. She could not even swim as long as Jerlin. Qin Zhao had considered not going out again after this trip to Nanchi Island. In the future, Qin Zhao planned to stay by Feilai's side until she gave birth. Just then Guret's call came. Chapter 1259. Qin Zhao drove a yacht out to sea. He didn't want to get seasick like last time. Even with Qin Zhao's current abilities, he couldn't avoid this physiological reaction. Although the golden key could change one's adaptability to the environment, it would only work when Qin Zhao was in life-threatening danger. Moreover, physiological reactions had many unstable factors. It was just like pain. Many spiritualists would block off their sense of pain so that they could unleash greater strength in battle. But in fact, pain was also the body's alarm system. Without pain nerves, there would be unpredictable consequences. Thus, Qin Zhao wouldn't use unconventional methods to avoid seasickness. Anyway, Qin Zhao had made up his mind that as long as he went out to sea, he wouldn't take those long-distance boats. The stress on long-distance boats and yachts was different. Qin Zhao hated that feeling. He hated the feeling of being dizzy. If he was injured, he could still persevere with his willpower. However, there was nothing he could do about seasickness. His reactions would also slow down due to seasickness. After setting up the navigation, Qin Zhao was free. He lay on the deck and sunbathed. Just then Guret called again. "Hey Qin, have you left yet?" "Yes. I'll reach Hawaii in the morning." They'd agreed to meet up in Hawaii, so Qin Zhao set up the navigation to Hawaii too. "Didn't you fly over?" "No, I took my own yacht," Qin Zhao said. "You're going to explore and search for treasures with the yacht? Is there a problem? The yacht can't go deep into the sea, right? Unless you fill the cabin with fuel." "Don't worry about that. I have my own plans since I'm driving the yacht." "Fine. As long as your yacht doesn't break down halfway, I don't care," Guret said. "The sea route is rather long this time, so we don't have much fuel. Don't expect me to give you my boat's fuel. If your yacht runs out of fuel, you'll have to abandon it in the deep sea." "I don't lack fuel," Qin Zhao said, unconcerned. "Fine." After hanging up, Qin Zhao continued to enjoy the scenery at sea. He jumped into the sea to swim or dive into the deep sea. There were too many things he could do to kill time. At noon, Qin Zhao caught a giant clam in the water. It was 80 centimeters long and weighed more than 150 kilograms. Of course, this was also the location that Amon had sent him. Such a giant toad might not even be found within a radius of dozens of square kilometers. Giant toads were also known as giant clams. Giant toads had a very long lifespan. The oldest giant toad discovered so far was more than 300 years old. Wild giant toads had an average lifespan of more than 100 years. Therefore, the giant toad could grow very big. Wild giant toads were an endangered species, but harvesting them was not prohibited. Currently, only the harvesting of young toads was prohibited, and harvesting giant toads required some special documents. It was not a fishing permit issued by the National Bureau of Fisheries, but a giant toad fishing permit issued by the International Animal Protection Organization. Moreover, it was not given to fishing companies but to some small island countries. Technically, it was illegal for Qin Zhao to catch the giant toad. Qin Zhao didn't care. The age of this giant toad was estimated to be over 80 years old. The older the giant toad, the more tender its meat was. The best way to eat it is to eat it raw. Mustard is the best dipping sauce. Of course, everyone had their own taste, but Qin Zhao still preferred wasabi. Once it was frozen, however, it could not be eaten raw. Only fresh giant toads could be eaten raw if the meat was directly cut off from the top. If it was frozen and stored, it could only be used for cooking. Among them, barbecuing and making soup were the best. Qin Zhao finished all the toad meat in one meal and threw the clam shell back into the sea. Generally speaking, most seafood could be eaten raw, but most freshwater products could not be eaten. It was not just because of the taste. The main reason was that there were fewer parasites in seafood. Even if there were parasites, most could not survive in the human body. Freshwater parasites, on the other hand, could mostly survive in the human body. On the Pacific Ocean, 2 exploration ships moved forward in a row. The large one had a displacement of 9,000 tons. It was called Wild Bull. The other only had a displacement of 4,000 tons. It was called Seagull. Hi, you're Prague, right? Yes, Mr. Rick. I'm Prague. How do you feel about the sea? Not bad, Prague said, smiling. Where are we going next? Our plan is to go to the Suomessa Triangle Sea. The Suomessa Triangle Sea? Is there such a sea? Prague asked, confused. Oh, you're not in the archaeological world, so it's normal that you don't know about this sea. The Suomessa Triangle Sea is a special term for archaeology. It's actually 1,000 nautical miles southwest of the Hawaiian Islands, close to the Solomon Sea and less than 2,000 kilometers from New Guinea. According to the theory of continental plate movement, the Suomessa Triangle Sea is a fragment of Bethmeyer Island. It's a fragment thrown away by the continental plate movement. There are many traces of primitive civilization there, and many islands have unique traces of primitive civilization. That's why the Suomessa Triangle Sea is also the favorite sea area of primitive civilization archaeologists and explorers. Some of the islands even hide mysterious ruins. Both archaeologists and explorers can only find treasures. Will we encounter natives? Some islands in the Suomessa Islands still have natives, but they're modern natives. They're similar to the natives of New Guinea, but the island we're going to doesn't have any natives. Okay. Prague nodded. It's almost dinner time, Rick said. Let's go in and eat. It'll be cold at night on the sea. Okay. After Prague entered the cabin, a crew member came to Rick's side. Mr. Rick, why are you bringing those 2 university students? It'll be very inconvenient for our plan. Because they paid me $5 million and Peter's father is the sponsor of our expedition team. He gives us $20 million every year, Rick said matter-of-factly. If it were you, would you reject it? Then what about our plan? We can't just bring them to where we're going, right? Chapter 1260. Pete, I'm sorry. I'm afraid the bison can't send you to the Suomessa Islands. What's wrong? Pete asked, puzzled. Prague also looked at Rick in surprise. The bison has a mechanical problem. The maintenance team has already repaired it, but several parts are seriously damaged. We can only wait for the tugboat to come. We can't go any further. Then what should we do? I paid and my father gives you $20 million a year. Are you going to be so irresponsible? Pete was the son of a rich family. His tone and attitude were quite arrogant. He had no respect for Rick. To him, not only Rick but the entire fleet and the entire expedition team were his family. These expedition members, including Rick, were his family's employees. $20 million? Do you know that it costs at least $50 million a year to maintain the expedition and fleet? $20 million? Do you think $20 million can solve all the problems? Rick didn't spoil Pete at all. And do you know how much wealth I bring to your father every year? Young man, you'd better be more respectful. Your father is not a philanthropist and I'm not your father's subordinate. We're collaborators. Pete's face suddenly became extremely ugly, especially in front of his girlfriend. You said it. When I go back, I'll tell my father to stop working with you. A cold light flashed in Rick's eyes, but it only flashed for a moment before he hid it. The Pete in front of him was still too young. Or maybe his father had protected him too much in the past, so he didn't understand how much trouble his words and actions would bring him. Okay, send them to the Seagull, Rick said indifferently. At the same time he glanced at his crew. Young Master Peter, please. Wait for me. I'll talk to my father on the satellite phone, Pete said unwillingly. Then Pete and Prague went to the Seagull in a kayak. Mr. Rick, what should we do? That troublesome little guy. Rick looked at the Seagull not far away. Inform the people on the Seagull. If he really wants the satellite phone, kill him. His father's money, we still have a huge gap in our funds. We definitely can't let that brat destroy it. Pete's father knew where Rick's expedition came from, but Pete didn't. Pete really thought that Rick's expedition was just an ordinary expedition. Pete's father was a pure businessman. The reason why he cooperated with Rick was that Rick's expedition could bring him profits. He was not a philanthropist. He was a greedy capitalist. Rick was more of a bandit than an explorer. His subordinates were a group of bandits. Although they also carried out some exploration and archaeology. But in fact, their main source of income was not exploration and archaeology, but robbing expeditions and archaeological teams. Of course, they weren't ordinary bandits because once they made a move, they would always be ruthless and ruthless. They would never leave anyone alive. It was precisely because of his ruthless methods that Rick was able to hide his identity so well. So far, no one in the archaeological exploration circle knew his true identity. He could still rely on his identity as an explorer to obtain information that was only available to those in the circle. For example, where did a certain team go and what good stuff was there? Once Rick had his eyes on a team, he would make meticulous arrangements. Every time Rick snatched something, he would sell it to Pete's father at a lower price. Rick knew the true value of those things, but he was only a bandit, not a businessman. He couldn't sell things for the highest price, but Pete's father could. Compared to his father's sinister nature, Pete was much more foolish. If possible, Rick didn't want to kill Pete. After all, his father wasn't good at picking fights and Rick didn't want to be enemies with his father. But if Pete wanted to die, Rick wouldn't be lenient. In their line of work, they didn't make a profit for half a year, but once they did, they would eat for half a year. So most of the time they were short of money. And even if they had money, they wouldn't spend it on maintaining the team. Pete's father was the biggest sponsor of his team. Pete's idea was not wrong. In terms of the amount of funding, his father was indeed the big boss of the expedition team. But Rick wouldn't be someone else's underling. And Pete just boarded the Seagull and began to act like a tyrant again. What a broken ship, Pete said unhappily. And why is Prague in my cabin so small? The Seagull only had a displacement of 4,000 tons, and its natural conditions weren't as good as the Buffalo, which had a displacement of 9,000 tons. Pete, forget it. We're not here for a vacation, Prague advised. Prague advised. She was also quite speechless at Peter's childish temper, especially his attitude towards Rick. Even she felt that it was very inappropriate. You still have the face to speak? It's all your fault. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have to suffer like this. Pete even blamed Prague now. Prague's expression froze and he looked at Pete with a livid face. I'm going back to Los Angeles. Call your captain over. I really don't understand what I was thinking before. I actually came to the sea to be tortured. Prague gritted his teeth and looked at Pete. He was the one who said that there was an expedition team, and he was the one who could come out and relax. Now he was the one blaming himself. It was as if Prague had met Pete for the first time. Prague was also too young. She thought that when Pete pursued her, he was so passionate and made so many vows of love. She thought that Pete really liked her. She didn't expect that after just 2 days of sea breeze, Pete would show such a face. We will not return, the crew member said in a cold tone. Before Pete and Prague came to the Seagull, Rick had already informed them. If Pete wanted to return or ask for a satellite phone, then he would kill them all and throw them into the sea. Since they had already fallen out, the crew members simply didn't need to pretend anymore. What kind of attitude is this? How dare you speak to me like this? Do you know who my father is? Do you believe that I won't let you die without knowing how? The crew member pulled out a gun from behind and pointed it at Prague and Pete. What are you doing? Don't shoot. Let's talk this out. Peter was terrified. He grabbed Prague's arms and hid behind her. Prague was first frightened by the crew member's actions, but she was even more shocked by Pete's cowardly behavior. Chapter 1261. Captain, his father is not a good person. If we blatantly blackmail him, we will definitely die a horrible death. The crew member looked back at the captain. Prague suddenly seized the opportunity. She picked up the iron bar beside her and heavily smashed the crew member's wrist that was holding the gun. Prague immediately picked up the gun. Don't move. Pete's face was full of disbelief. He didn't know Prague had such a decisive side. The surrounding crew members saw Prague grab the gun and were somewhat shocked. But they weren't worried. After all, Prague was just a woman. Miss Prague, you better understand your situation. The captain looked at Prague, his tone somewhat disdainful. To be honest, Prague was very calm at the moment. Perhaps because she had experienced more severe and dangerous events. So at this moment, Prague wasn't that afraid. Suddenly, Prague turned the gun and pointed at the captain. Bang! Prague fired and the captain fell to the ground. But the gun wasn't fatal. The other crew members immediately wanted to pull out their guns. But at this time, Prague fired several shots. These shots made the crew members dumbfounded. They all covered their heads and fled. Prague turned and ran into the cabin and Pete quickly followed him. He looked at Prague with shock in his eyes. Is this the girl in my life? Just then, another crewman came out of a hatch on the walkway. He heard the noise outside and came out to see what was going on. Just in time to see Prague, he didn't have time to react. Prague had already raised the gun to the crew member's forehead. Pete, take his gun away. Pete quickly searched the crew member's gun. Prague single-handedly held the crew member's neck and used him as a meat shield, slowly retreating. Where is the kitchen? Prague asked. Go straight, the innermost cabin is the kitchen. At this time the crew members outside the deck came in. But they didn't dare to shoot. They stared at Prague, Pete, and the kidnapped crew member as they entered the kitchen. As soon as Prague entered the kitchen, he immediately locked the door. This kind of closed cabin door was locked with a wrench. If one side was fastened, then the other side definitely couldn't be opened. This was because ocean-going ships like theirs often had to go to some rough seas, and many times the waves would come in from the deck. Therefore, many people often use this kind of closed cabin door to block the sea water. But now Prague was given a chance. Peter, tie him up. Oh. Peter was completely shocked by Prague's swift method. He never thought that the seemingly weak would have such a decisive response. What do we do now? Don't worry. They should be the ones thinking about what to do now. Prague said calmly, food and water are all here, and the nearest island or coastline is at least 3 days away. We have enough time to delay them, and 3 days is enough for them to die of thirst at sea. At this time, the crew members who were being held hostage also reacted. He also looked at Prague in surprise. He did not expect Prague to have such a side to him. You seem to have forgotten about the bison, the crew member said in a calm tone. Isn't the bison broken? Peter asked in surprise. Rick must have lied to us, Prague said. Prague finally reacted. They most likely have some ulterior motives, but they accepted your money, so they plan to bring us to Seagull and send us away. But your attitude and your threat to sever your father's cooperation with them made Rick unhappy, so he wanted to kill you. To put it bluntly, all of this could have been avoided. It was all Peter's stupid words and attitude that caused this disaster. Peter's face turned red. He retorted, it's all because you wanted to go out to sea. Otherwise we wouldn't be in danger. There are electric welded walls outside, so even if we don't inform the bison, this door won't last long, the crew member said. So I advise you to surrender as soon as possible. A stalemate won't do you any good. I don't think so. After I held you hostage just now, those people were obviously very nervous. Were you on this ship? My name is Pammy. I'm not anyone on this ship. I'm just a collaborator with them. The crew member shrugged. Collaborator from what side? You won't believe me even if I tell you, Pammy said calmly. How do you know I won't believe you if you don't tell me? Okay, I'm a deep-sea priest. I can help the exploration ship avoid dangerous waters, Pammy said. Nonsense. What deep-sea priest? You're just a liar. Peter didn't believe Pammy at all. See, you won't believe me even if I tell you, Pammy said calmly. She didn't care about Peter's attitude. I believe you, Prague said. Prague, he's obviously lying. He's lying to you on purpose. Prague didn't want to talk to Peter at all. If they weren't in the same boat, Prague would have shot Peter. Do you have any spells that can stop them from coming in? Prague asked. Why should I help you? You're holding me hostage now. Pammy sneered at Prague. Prague lifted Pammy coldly. At the moment, Pammy was tied up tightly and couldn't resist even if she wanted to. Prague pressed Pammy's head on the stove and turned on the gas, but he didn't light it. The choking gas drilled into Pammy's nostrils, making it difficult for her to breathe. Don't challenge my patience and don't think you're special, Prague said coldly as he turned off the gas. Peter felt that Prague in front of him was very unfamiliar. Was she really Prague? Pammy coughed violently. Breathing in gas was very uncomfortable. What about now? Prague looked at Pammy. My hands are tied. I can't cast spells, Pammy said. Prague narrowed her eyes at Pammy. She didn't want to let go of Pammy. Especially after knowing that he was a spiritualist, Prague was even more cautious. She was completely unfamiliar with deep-sea priests and didn't know what abilities Pammy had. Now that he was tied up, she could still threaten him with a gun. But once she let go of Pammy, she would probably be controlled by him. Just then there was a sudden hurried knock on the closed door. Open the door. Open the door. Let me in. The voice outside didn't sound like a request or a threat. It was more like a plea for them to open the door. But of course Prague wouldn't open the door. Suddenly there was a scream from outside. What happened? The people outside were attacked. Chapter 1262. Prague didn't dare to open the door. Because she didn't know what was happening outside. Moreover, they had only been hiding here for less than 20 minutes. How could something happen outside so coincidentally? So, Prague was inclined to believe that the crew of the Seagull deliberately tricked her into opening the door. Pete was the kind of man who didn't have his own opinions. Since the beginning he had been by Prague's side. Prague, what do we do now? Hide, Prague said. Do you have your phone? Yes, but there's no signal. We're far out at sea. We can only use satellite phones. Prague looked at Peter with some disdain, but she still said patiently, we'll wait for them to reach the shore. They're outside and don't even have food. They might not even make it to the shore. Then we can completely take over the ship. Don't use the phone. Peter nodded. Prague began to wander around the kitchen. There were at least 30 people, enough water and food for 2 months. They wouldn't starve to death even if they hid here for a year. Prague took a piece of bread to replenish her energy. Peter, on the other hand, was in a trance. He had no appetite at all. Give me some too, Pammy said. Just as Pete was about to take it, Prague stopped Pete. Just give him the minimum food supply. A little bit a day. That's the only way to ensure our safety. What? Because he's not an ordinary person. Do you really believe that he knows magic? Peter asked in return. If you don't want to die, you'd better listen to me, Prague said. Fine. Pammy looked at Prague helplessly. She had to admit that Prague's thinking was meticulous, as if she had received professional training. Miss Prague, have you received military training? No. Shouldn't ordinary people panic in a situation like this? Also, you're a woman. I've been through more terrifying situations. Compared to that situation, the people on this ship are like obedient children in kindergarten. Have you come into contact with other spiritualists before? Yes. Prague nodded. No wonder you weren't surprised when you found out about my identity. Prague? What spiritualist? Peter couldn't understand Prague and Pammy at all. Nothing. Just then Pammy started to act up again. I need to go to the bathroom. Hold it in. I can't hold it in anymore. Then just poop it on your pants, Prague said calmly. She had no intention of helping Pammy at all. Pammy looked at Prague helplessly. He didn't expect Prague to be so cautious. I promise I won't cause any trouble. Can you untie me? No. Prague obviously didn't trust Pammy. After an hour, Pammy finally couldn't hold it in anymore. I really can't hold it in anymore. Let me go to the bathroom. Previously it was just a test, but this time it was for real. Pete, take him to the toilet. Pete wanted to ask why it was him, but on second thought, if it wasn't him, who else could it be? Don't bring guns, Bragg said again. Why? If he wants to resist, even if he holds you hostage, he won't be able to hurt you without a weapon, let alone change the situation. But if you have a gun and he happens to take it away, then you will put us all in danger. Pammy looked at Prague deeply. She had to admit that Prague's thinking was too meticulous. He wouldn't believe that she didn't have professional military training. After a while, Pammy came out of the toilet tied up again. To be honest, this was the perfect hiding place. There was a toilet, food, and fresh water. Plus, the people outside couldn't come in. Actually, you don't have to be so cautious. Since you've met spiritualists before, you should know that they have different types. I'm not an offensive spiritualist, Pammy said. Plus, even if there's a gun in front of me, I can't beat you. Pammy's words were sincere. Based on Prague's previous behavior, Pammy didn't plan to resist. To be honest, if Prague went out and fought the crew on the boat now, Pammy doubted that the people on the boat could beat her. Of course, Prague didn't think so. She knew what she was capable of. In terms of intelligence, she could barely beat Pammy. But if she fought with real guns, she would probably be shot into a sieve by the crew outside in one round. The boat was parked outside Hawaii. Qin Zhao didn't dock it at the port. The boat was a medium-sized boat, so it wasn't cheap to dock at the port. It cost $100,000 to dock once and a few $1,000s a day. Qin Zhao didn't lack money, but he didn't plan to waste it either. Not long after, the yacht's radar detected a ship approaching the yacht. Hey Qin, my boat is approaching you. It's less than 20 nautical miles away. Although they'd already agreed, Guret still reminded Qin Zhao when he got closer, in case Qin Zhao thought it was a boat with unknown intentions. Soon, Guret's boat was within sight of Qin Zhao's boat. Boss, what a big boat. The person on it must be rich. Let's do this, right? Guret's subordinates were all excited. They could tell that the boat belonged to a rich person. This was also the open sea. For the pirates, it was the best target. The owner of the boat is our partner this time, Guret said indifferently. If you don't want to die, you better give up. That person is definitely not someone you can offend. Guret's boat slowly approached the boat and gave Qin Zhao a signal. Qin Zhao waved his hand, gesturing for them to come closer. When they were close, Guret boarded the kayak and came to Qin Zhao's boat. Hey Qin, we finally meet again. Okay, can we go now? Guret nodded and turned around to signal his crew, telling them to start the boat. Qin Zhao took out some food for Guret. How far are we from Nanchi Island? It's a 4-day journey. That's really far. Qin Zhao was already prepared to spend a long time at sea. According to Guret, it would take 8 days to go back and forth. No, it should be 10 days because it took Qin Zhao a day to get here from Los Angeles. Why did you drive the boat out? It's not convenient to enter the deep sea. I'm seasick, Qin Zhao said matter-of-factly. Oh, you're seasick? What's so strange about seasick? Chapter 1263. During the break, Qin Zhao chased Guret back to his ship. Apart from Guret, no one else was allowed to board his ship. Just because Qin Zhao was working with Guret didn't mean he could accept pirates. These guys looked at his ship weirdly. Who knew if they would steal anything once they boarded his yacht? Guret's subordinates were also very unhappy with Qin Zhao's behavior. Boss, who does that guy think he is? He's looking down on us. AG, who cares about his attitude? Guret glanced at her subordinates. Just mind your own business. Guret was also unhappy with Qin Zhao's attitude, but they were working together now. She didn't want something small to cause a problem in their cooperation. Whether it was her or Qin Zhao, they both wanted money. Plus, she didn't think she could gain anything from falling out. Showing off her dignity? Changing Qin Zhao's attitude? Guret was very clear about her position. Qin Zhao needed her. And she needed Qin Zhao too. AG looked at Qin Zhao's ship, her eyes filled with greed. How much could this ship be worth? Even if it was sold as a second-hand ship, it could probably fetch tens of millions of dollars. Unfortunately, Guret didn't agree with him at all. In the next 2 days, the pirates watched as Qin Zhao enjoyed good food and wine on the ship not far away. He even jumped into the sea to play. On the other hand, there were only a few dozen of them on the broken ship. This difference in treatment made everyone very dissatisfied. Actually, Qin Zhao was already somewhat bored. It was mainly because of loneliness. Guret would occasionally come over to chat with Qin Zhao. Otherwise, he would chat with Feilai on the satellite phone. When they reached the deep sea, the waves started getting bigger. This showed the good performance of the ship. When the waves hit the ship would deflect them. However, if the ship encountered a 20-meter wave, it would be very dangerous. The ship couldn't withstand the impact of such a wave. Only Guret's ship could. Her ship was an ocean-going ship. In this sea, the 10-meter wave was already a threat to Qin Zhao's ship. Qin Zhao had to release his little world to protect his ship. Qin Zhao earned money by going out to sea to search for treasures. If he didn't earn any money and lost a ship, he couldn't accept it. Agu had been standing on the deck of the pirate ship for the past 2 days, staring at the yacht. Why didn't the yacht capsize? Agu had always hoped that the waves in this area could capsize the yacht. Then the Asian would need to ask for help from their pirate ship, and they would be able to reject him and not let him board the ship. At that moment, another huge wave came crashing over. The bow of the pirate ship tilted down and passed through the waves. However, the huge waves directly drenched the people on the deck. AG wiped the seawater off his face and looked at Chen Zhao's yacht. However, to his disappointment, the waves suddenly weakened after reaching Chen Zhao's yacht. Damn it, such a big wave. Why did it weaken after walking for a few dozen meters? Agu became more and more dissatisfied. His jealousy had already twisted him. Suddenly, Agu saw a ship amidst the waves ahead. "Boss, there's a ship ahead," Adger immediately reported to Guret. "What ship?" "I don't know." "Signaling?" "No response, and I don't see anyone on the deck," Agar said. "Search for the nearby radio channels." "Only the Asian's yacht has a radio channel. That ship doesn't have a radio channel." "How can it not have one?" Radios were very common. Any mid-range or long-range ship had to be equipped with radios. Even fishing boats and illegal immigration boats had radios. "Should we go closer and take a look?" Agar asked. Usually, according to the international rules, when one received a distress signal, they had to go and rescue if the conditions allowed. Such a ship stopped in this turbulent sea, and there was no radio signal. It was very likely that something had happened to the ship. Of course, they were pirates and wouldn't go and rescue people. Actually, they had saved people before. Of course, they wouldn't expose their identities. "Boss, let's go and take a look," Agar suggested. "Okay. Send a signal to Mr. Chen's yacht and tell it to stop for now. We'll go and check the ship." Agar's lips curled into a subtle smile. He quickly ran to the cockpit and picked up the walkie-talkie. "Mr. Chen, there's a ship ahead. Boss Guret asked you to come with us and see who's on it." Chen Zhao also saw the ship in front of them. He was rather bored now. After some thought, he agreed to the suggestion. Chen Zhao stopped the yacht and lowered the anchor. Then he released the kayak into the sea. Guret's pirate ship also sent 5 people. They arrived on the Seagull one after the other. Agar took out a grappling hook. He threw it up and hooked it to the edge of the boat. Then he started climbing. When all 5 climbed up, Agar looked down at Chen Zhao. "Mr. Chen, do you need us to help you?" Agar looked at Chen Zhao teasingly. Chen Zhao narrowed his eyes. He could feel Agar's malicious tone. Chen Zhao pulled the grappling hook. Ignoring Agar, he climbed up himself. Seeing Chen Zhao climb up, Agar wanted to kick the grappling hook away, but it didn't budge. After reaching the deck, Chen Zhao started looking around. He was also curious why there was no one on the ship. It didn't look like a ship that had drifted for a long time. There were still traces of people on it. There should have been people on the Seagull not long ago. "Mr. Chen, you know who we are, right?" Agar stared at Chen Zhao. He planned to give Chen Zhao a show of strength here. Therefore, the people he chose were all his trusted subordinates. Chen Zhao looked around. Then he walked around Agar and walked toward the cabin. Chen Zhao completely ignored Agar. Agar's face immediately twisted. Just then, one of Agar's subordinates raised his fist and punched Chen Zhao's back. "Kid, our boss is talking to you. Didn't you hear?" Chen Zhao turned around and looked at the 5 people. Suddenly, Chen Zhao pulled out the gun that the pirate had inserted into his pants and pointed it at the pirate's chin. Bang! Agar and the others didn't expect Chen Zhao to be so decisive. They were about to attack when Chen Zhao raised the gun and pointed it at Agar's head. "Were you talking to me just now?" Agar didn't dare to move. At the same time, he opened his arms to stop his subordinates. "Mr. Chen, I just want to be friends with you. You don't have to kill one of my subordinates without saying anything, right?" Chapter 1264. "Mr. Chen, can you put the gun down?" Chen Zhao smiled and put the gun down, after which he walked into the cabin. Auguste signaled one of his men with the corner of his eyes, and one of his men quietly took out a gun. He was about to aim at Chen Zhao's back. Suddenly, Chen Zhao turned around and fired. A bloody mark was left on the subordinate's cheek. He was so scared that he dropped his gun. "Sorry I scared you." Chen Zhao still had that casual smile. "But I hope you won't shoot me in the back next time. If it happens again, it won't just leave a mark, understand?" Actually, Chen Zhao had wanted to aim at the man's head. However, Chen Zhao's shooting skills were too bad. Even at a distance of 1 meter, he could still miss. Chen Zhao glanced at Adger. "If there's a next time, you can all die." Adger didn't want to move anymore. It was as if this man had eyes in the back of his head. His reflexes were most likely trained on the battlefield. It wasn't wise to fight someone like this head-on. Although Aji's heart was filled with resentment, he still suppressed it. Qin Zhao continued walking toward the cabin, but after a few steps he felt something under his feet. Looking down he saw something sticky on the ground. Qin Zhao squatted down and poked it with his finger. It felt like jelly. Adger and his subordinates really wanted to pull out their guns now. But thinking about Qin Zhao's reflexes, they gave up on the idea. This man wasn't easy to mess with. They had to find another opportunity. After a few more steps, Qin Zhao saw blood and claw marks on the wall. It looked like someone had struggled here. Their fingers had scratched the metal floor and left bloody marks. But there wasn't much blood. They came to the end of the corridor. Qin Zhao could feel someone's voice inside. Qin Zhao tried to turn the wheel that sealed the cabin door. It seemed to be locked. Qin Zhao pulled the wheel off and opened the metal door. Instantly, 2 guns were pointed at Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao looked into the cabin. It was the kitchen. There were 3 people inside. Qin Zhao even knew one of them. It was Prague. Prague, you dare to point a gun at me? Prague quickly put down his gun and was surprised. Mr. Qin, why are you here? I went out to play and found that there was no one on this ship, so I came up to take a look. I still want to ask you, why are you here? Prague, do you know him? Peter asked, puzzled. Put down the gun if you don't want to die. They have guns. Nobody can be trusted here, Peter said. He'll kill you, said Bragg. Just then, Agu and the others finally raised their guns. They felt that their chance had arrived. Pete raised his gun from the front and they pointed it at Qin from the back. They didn't believe that Qin Zhao could survive in this situation. Pete didn't expect the 4 people behind Qin Zhao to raise their guns. He wasn't pointing at himself but at Qin Zhao. Mr. Qin, who are they? Prague asked, confused. Weren't they Qin Zhao's subordinates? Why was he pointing a gun at him? They are dead people. Go to hell. Agu fired first. Qin Zhao twisted his neck. The bullet brushed past his face and he dodged it by a hair's breadth. You shouldn't be so close, Qin Zhao said indifferently. Qin Zhao suddenly pulled out his gun and fired 3 consecutive shots at an extremely fast speed. Bang bang bang, 3 of Aji's subordinates died at the same time. At such a close distance, Qin Zhao wouldn't miss no matter how bad his shooting skills were. Aji's expression was somewhat stiff. Qin. Mr. Qin. I was joking with you, you're still holding your gun. You're not sincere at all. Qin Zhao smiled. Agu was conflicted. Should he shoot or put down his gun? Qin Zhao had actually dodged his bullets at such a close distance. He was already scared out of his wits. Moreover, Qin Zhao had killed 3 of his subordinates in less than a second. This scared him out of his wits. Mr. Qin, you won't kill me, right? I'm Boss Guret's right-hand man. I'm responsible for many things on the ship. Of course, I promise you that I won't kill you. Qin Zhao nodded. I'm such a good friend with Guret. I won't blame you for such a small joke. Agu didn't really believe Qin Zhao's words, but his fear of Qin Zhao forced him to put down his gun. At the moment, Agu was already regretting his actions. Why did he have to make life difficult for Qin Zhao? As expected, Qin Zhao put down his gun. Agu heaved a long sigh of relief. But just then, another thought popped up in his mind. When he returned to Guret, he would definitely tell him about Qin Zhao's violent actions. Agu was the kind of person who would forget the pain after a scar healed. Peter didn't dare to raise his gun anymore. He hurriedly put it down. This man was a butcher who killed without batting an eye. In the blink of an eye, he had killed 3 people. Mr. Qin, what's the situation outside? I'm going to ask you why you're here. Where are the people on this ship? I don't know either. The people on this ship aren't good people. We were tricked onto this ship and realized that they had bad intentions towards us. So, I took this person as a hostage and hid here. Not long after, there were cries for help outside. We've been hiding here for 2 days. During this time, we didn't dare to go out. I see. Mr. Qin, can you take us back to LA? You can go to my ship first, but I won't go back for a few days. I have my own destination. Okay then. Pointing at Pommy, Prague said, he's also a spiritualist. He says he's a deep-sea priest. So embarrassing. As a spiritualist, he's actually taken hostage by a kid. Qin Zhao glanced at Pommy. Pommy didn't retort. Qin Zhao's killing just now had also scared him. Let's go. Qin Zhao brought the 3 out of the cabin. Prague realized that everyone on the ship had really disappeared. However, they found another corpse on the deck. He was just joking with me and I accidentally shot him, Qin Zhao said calmly. That's my ship. Great, Peter exclaimed in surprise. I can finally rest. Did I say you can go to my ship? Huh. Why not let me go? You pointed your gun at me just now. Is that reason enough? Do you know who my father is? It's none of my business. Qin Zhao snorted and turned to Prague and Pommy. Jump onto the raft. Peter's eyes were filled with anger. Qin Zhao didn't care about Peter's expression. Peter could only say, send me back to LA and I'll give you $10,000. Do you think I'm a beggar? Peter looked at Qin Zhao's ship. It cost at least 50 million. Chapter 1265. 2 million, Qin Zhao raised the price. Just then Agar couldn't stand it anymore. He tried to steal business right in front of Qin Zhao. 1 million. I'm willing to send you back to LA. Hearing Agar's price, Peter was also tempted. After all, it was a big expense to save $1 million. He's a pirate. Are you sure you want to get on his boat? Qin Zhao sneered. Peter's expression changed instantly. You're a pirate? As long as you pay, I can promise to send you back to LA, Agar promised confidently. It was just that Peter had already been cheated once. How would he be willing to get on his boat again? Qin Zhao was fierce, but at least Prague knew him. Mr. Qin, I think I'll get on your boat. I'll pay 2 million. Smart choice. Qin Zhao patted Peter's shoulder. Go to my raft. Agar watched Qin Zhao leave with the three in anger. The duck that was about to fall into his mouth flew away just like that. Prague glanced at Qin Zhao. Mr. Qin, I thought you'd kill that guy too. I've always kept my word. How could I go back on my word? Seeing that Agar's raft was approaching Guret's pirate boat, Qin Zhao's lips curled. Plus, who knows what's hiding under the sea? Suddenly Agar's raft flipped. Logically speaking, as a pirate, Agar was definitely good at swimming. However, Agar was calling for help on the sea. His body was bobbing up and down. Prague looked at Qin Zhao. Aren't you going to save him? Hee, your joke is really refreshing. Qin Zhao could not be bothered with Agar, who was crying for help on the sea. The raft passed him less than 10 meters away, but he still ignored it. Prague, Peter, and Pommy watched as Agar's body sank into the sea. The three all felt that Qin Zhao was cold-blooded. Returning to the boat, Qin Zhao arranged rooms for the three. The 3 rooms on the right of the inner cabin are yours. The three looked around their rooms. Prague and Pommy didn't have any objections, but Peter was displeased. Why is my room so small? You have a bigger room. Because I'm the captain. I paid for it. I promised to send you back to Los Angeles, but I didn't promise to let you enjoy it. If you keep nagging, I might send your ashes back to Los Angeles. Pete didn't dare to speak and Prague was speechless. He had already suffered a loss before, but Pete still didn't learn his lesson and dared to spout nonsense. Why don't you take a look at who the other party is? At this moment, Gulai's call came. Qin, I want you to give me an explanation. Why did you kill all my people? I also want to ask you, why is every single one of the people you sent here filled with hostility towards me? If you don't discipline them well, I don't mind disciplining them for you. If anyone shows hostility towards me again, I won't hesitate to kill them all, even if it's you. Guile was speechless. She had a bad feeling when Agar and his cronies boarded the Seagull. What happened next was just as she expected. Agar and Qin Zhao had a conflict. With Qin Zhao's personality, it wouldn't be surprising if he killed them. The 2 boats continued moving forward. Guile didn't continue arguing with Qin Zhao. She also knew that she was in the wrong. If she kept arguing with Qin Zhao, she would be the one at a disadvantage in the end. Mr. Qin, when are we going back to Los Angeles? Pete was unhappy with Qin Zhao, but he still suppressed his dissatisfaction. At least he didn't want to anger Qin Zhao again. I still have something to do. I'll add another $1 million. Take me back to Los Angeles immediately. Qin Zhao glanced at Pete and ignored him. Prague and Pommy were very sensible. They also wanted to return to Los Angeles as soon as possible. But they wouldn't be like Pete, who didn't know when to stop. Also, I know you have a gun, Qin Zhao said. If you make a hole in my boat, I'll make a hole in your body. Although Peter was dissatisfied, he could only endure it at this time. Thankfully, Qin Zhao's boat was big enough. The environment and facilities were all top-notch. It was like a luxurious hotel, so the three didn't complain anymore. Mainly because of Pete. Pete hid in his room and sulked. On the other hand, Qin Zhao was lying on the sun chair in his boxers, enjoying the sea breeze. Just then, Pommy walked over with a glass of juice. You're a spiritualist too? Yes. Qin Zhao opened his eyes and glanced at Pommy. I heard from Prague that you're a deep-sea priest. What element exactly? I can feel the emotions of the creatures in the sea, Pommy said. From their emotions, I can analyze the danger level of the nearby sea. Then what do you think the sea we're in right now is dangerous? Safe, Pommy answered. What element are you? Strengthening, Qin Zhao said. I also know some random spells, all offensive spells. Wizards have weak magic power. If you practice so many spells it'll spread out. I don't need someone who can be kidnapped by a college girl to teach me how to use magic, Qin Zhao said in disdain. I don't want to fight, Pommy said stubbornly. Do you really think I can't beat her? He was also someone who cared about his reputation. This was the first time Qin Zhao had mocked him. He was afraid of Qin Zhao's methods and didn't dare to talk back. Now he basically understood Qin Zhao, so he wasn't as afraid of Qin Zhao as before. Oh, then show me. I'm not a monkey. Unless it's really necessary, I won't show it to anyone. You should listen to me on my boat. If you don't show me, I'll throw you into the sea to feed the sharks. Fine. Actually, my spell is Deep Sea Shark. I can summon a school of sharks so you can't feel the effect on the boat. Summon a school of sharks? Show me. Pommy looked unwilling. This spell uses a lot of magic power. Stop talking and show me. Can I summon one? Fine. Pommy started casting the spell, but after a long time, Qin Zhao still didn't see any sharks. Can you do it or not? There are no sharks nearby. Let's wait, Pommy said. Pommy said. My spell can only summon sharks within a 30-kilometer radius. I can't summon all the sharks in the entire sea. Oh, I got it. Pommy felt the presence of a shark, but as soon as he spoke, his connection with the shark was cut off. What happened? Why did the shark suddenly die? Chapter 1266. How come I don't see the shark? Qin Zhao asked despite knowing the answer. Feeling Qin Zhao's gaze, Pommy was speechless too. He could sense it and make a short connection to order the shark. But he didn't know what the shark was thinking. In the end, he could only attribute it to his bad luck. It was a shark that was about to die. Pommy felt very embarrassed. So he decided to contact another shark to at least earn his face back. Fortunately, in less than 10 minutes, another shark appeared in the nearby waters. Judging from the strength of his senses, it was a great white shark. Great white sharks were the greatest threat to humans out of all shark species. At least in the sea they were the greatest threat. Bull sharks, on the other hand, had the most injuries. Bull sharks could adapt to freshwater and would become more aggressive in freshwater, especially in the Ganges River region of India. This was especially true in the Ganges River basin of India. Because of the Indian custom of throwing corpses into the Ganges River, bull sharks living in the Ganges River basin were used to eating human flesh. Moreover, Indian religions believe that bull sharks are a holy symbol, which leads to a large number of bull shark attacks in India every year. Pommy couldn't see the great white shark he'd contacted. However, from the size of the great white shark spirit, he could still sense the size of the great white shark based on his experience. The great white shark was very strong and had already reached adulthood. It was the undisputed king of the sea. Pommy controlled the great white shark to approach. Mr. Qin, you can look at the sea on the left of the deck, but don't be scared. With a faint smile, Qin Zhao looked at Pommy. I'm looking forward to it. Pommy could feel that the great white shark was less than 100 meters away from the boat. It's coming? Suddenly, Pommy lost contact with the great white shark. Pommy was stunned. Why did it disappear again? Where was the great white shark? Completely disappeared? What happened? How could this be? Where did the great white shark go? Great white sharks usually lived in shallow waters more than 200 meters deep. There shouldn't be anything that could threaten them, right? But why did the great white shark disappear? Where did it go? Qin Zhao smiled at Pommy. Where's the shark? Accident. That shark hit the bottom of our boat and fainted. She didn't believe it. She felt that she had to show Qin Zhao her abilities today. However, half an hour later, that shark is constipated and can't leave the water. An hour later, Pommy succeeded. A small shark with a body length of no more than 60 centimeters. Impressive? Qin Zhao looked at Pommy with admiration and then turned to leave with a smile. Pommy felt like she had lost all her dignity. How embarrassing. After working for more than an hour, only a young shark was summoned. There was nothing more humiliating than this. Although he could not return to Los Angeles immediately, Peter gradually relaxed. Although he was still dissatisfied with Qin Zhao, the only thing that made Pete unhappy was Prague's attitude. Prague was now looking at Peter with disdain. Pete originally wanted to enter Prague's room and do some shameful things with her, but Prague pointed a gun at his head and drove him out of the room. They were heading north in the direction of the Bering Sea. The cold wind from the Bering Sea not only made the surface of the sea turbulent, but the temperature was also very low. At night, the temperature on the deck was -10 degrees Celsius. Qin Zhao quite liked this kind of environment. When he'd reached extreme polarity with both ice and fire at the same time. Therefore he was very resistant to low temperatures. In fact, not only was he resistant to low temperatures, but it could also make his mind more stable. During the day the temperature was a few degrees Celsius. At night it plummeted. Qin Zhao sat on the roof of the boat, enjoying the chilly spiritual qi that blew from the bow of the boat. Cultivation didn't make much progress for Qin Zhao. However, the low-temperature spiritual qi could make Qin Zhao's mind more stable. If he encountered an unexpected situation, his emotions wouldn't fluctuate too much. Qin Zhao circulated the Qingyi manual in his body and returned to his original state. When he opened his eyes, he realized that Prague was wrapped in a blanket and sitting not far away, also enjoying the cold wind. "Prague, why are you sitting here? Don't you want to rest?" Prague glanced at Qin Zhao. "Mr. Qin, aren't you cold?" Qin Zhao was only wearing a pair of boxers now. Prague really didn't understand how Qin Zhao could endure such low temperatures. Qin Zhao had been sitting there for more than an hour without moving. Prague almost thought that Qin Zhao had frozen to death. "Where are we going?" Prague asked. "Nanchi Island. Never heard of it. Why are we going there?" "To find the pirate's treasure." "Pirate's treasure?" "That's right." Just then Pommy hurried out of the cabin. "Mr. Qin, bad news." Pommy looked like he'd seen a ghost. "What's wrong?" "Mr. Qin, this area is dangerous. Very dangerous. I can feel it. It's very dangerous. We can't go any further." "Looks like we're going in the right direction," Qin Zhao said calmly. But Pommy didn't think so. He'd never felt such intense danger. The information the ocean sent him made his scalp go numb. Danger filled Pammy's mind. "Mr. Qin, I'm serious. If we go any further we'll be dead. I'm not joking. There's something really dangerous up ahead." "Oh, that's why I'm here," Qin Zhao said coolly. "If we continue forward we will die in this siege. Okay, it's getting late. Go rest." Qin Zhao turned and left. "You can't do this. You'll get us all killed. Don't make a fuss. This is part of my plan. You have no idea how dangerous this place is." Pommy still wouldn't give up. "Almost all the creatures in the sea are dying. All of them are desperately trying to escape. If you think it's dangerous you can disembark now. By the way, I can provide you with a raft." Pammy froze. A kayak? How could they rely on a kayak in such deep waters? What was the difference between this and suicide? Chapter 1267. The boat stopped. The boat in front has stopped. Pommy suddenly exclaimed in surprise, "Mr. Qin, they've also discovered the problem. They're leaving." Qin Zhao was also confused. He didn't know why Guret's boat had stopped now. Just then Guret connected to the boat's radio. "Qin, we've reached the outskirts of Nanchi Island." "Okay. Got it. We plan to enter again tomorrow." "Okay. Let's anchor here tonight. If we go in again it'll be a dangerous area." Pommy really wanted to escape from this area. However, Qin Zhao clearly wouldn't let him do that. Nevertheless, he was temporarily safe since he could stop moving forward. Pommy didn't feel sleepy at all. He had been looking at the turbulent sea with a worried look on his face. Pommy still couldn't overcome his fear. He didn't know what was in the water, but it was definitely something that scared him. Just then, a beam of light appeared in the distance. A boat? Another boat appeared nearby. Pommy looked at the boat. It seemed familiar. Wild bull? That's the wild bull? Pommy couldn't help but be excited. He didn't expect the wild bull to come here. If he could return to the wild bull he would be safe. "Mr. Rick, there are 2 boats in front of us. They're about 10 nautical miles away." Rick picked up his binoculars. After looking for a long time he was confused. "How come one of them is a yacht?" "Contact the 2 boats," Rick said. "Yes." One of the ocean-going boats replied that they're here for research. The other yacht replied automatically and refused to let us get close. "Any unauthorized approach will be considered a threat." Rick frowned. "Can you tell who they are?" "The so-called research boat has many bullet holes and explosion marks. It's covered up, but it's clearly a pirate ship. I can't tell what's going on with the other yacht." "Pirates?" Rick narrowed his eyes. "The owner of the yacht should be rich, right? Maybe they're already being held hostage by pirates. A pirate ship and a yacht. The combination was too abrupt. It was hard to connect them together." He couldn't help but think that the yacht was being held hostage. Get closer, Rick ordered. Get closer? But, aren't they pirates? So what if they're pirates? Do you think we're honest people? Rick's eyes shone with greed. Since we've met, we naturally want to share. They were all bandits, it was just that they hung out in different places. Rick did not think that he would cower in the face of pirates. Take out all your weapons. Rick said, tell them that we're out of fuel and food. Ask them to supply us with some. Boss, they're approaching us. Gurette had also noticed the bison approaching. Gurette's face was extremely cold as he stared at the wild bull. Anyone who could appear here was definitely not an honest person. He was like this and so were others. Take out your weapons. As soon as they get close, we'll start fighting. Gurette's attitude was unyielding. Seeing that the bison was getting closer and closer, the waves suddenly became bigger. The waves in this area began to grow larger. The pirate ship began to move up and down, and so did the bison. Even the crew would find it hard to resist, let alone fight. Both sides could only temporarily cease hostilities. The bison could only lower its anchor for now. If it did not, the huge waves might damage the ship. Gurette looked at the yacht. She realized that Qin Zhao's yacht was also moving in the waves, but it was much smaller. No wonder Qin Zhao drove this yacht over. It had been modified, Gurette thought. The waves grew larger and larger. The huge waves were even taller than the hull. Although the ship would not sink, the huge waves were very painful for the people on the yacht. Qin Zhao also woke up. If he still did not wake up, the yacht would capsize. Qin Zhao stretched. Looking at the swaying pirate ship in the distance, his mood instantly became much better. Pommy, didn't you sleep? Pommy looked at Qin Zhao, who had just walked out of the cabin. I can't sleep. Mr. Qin, can you take me to that ship? Qin Zhao looked in the direction Pommy was pointing. There was indeed a ship that he had not noticed before. Qin Zhao saw that the name of the ship was Bison. Oh, that's the ship. Qin Zhao remembered that Peter and Prague had said that their original ship was called Bison. It seemed to be this ship. Sure. Take the kayak. Pommy looked at Qin Zhao helplessly. The kayak could go over before. But the waves were so big now. The kayak would capsize if it went in. So, you're not satisfied? Mr. Qin, can you go closer to the ship? No. Qin Zhao refused without hesitation. That ship is full of bandits. You want me to go closer? Qin Zhao's reason was very good. Plus, he was not even a friend. Pommy was a bit angry, but there was nothing she could do. Pommy could only wait for the sun to rise and the waves to become smaller before going to the bison. But after waiting for a long time, the sky still did not brighten. Even Qin Zhao could feel it. He looked at the time. It was already past 8 in the morning, but the waves were still endless. The sky was still as dark as the night sky. Peter and Prague had also woken up. They also noticed the unusual weather. Gurette contacted Qin Zhao. Qin, what's wrong with the sky? I don't know. Don't you know? You've been here before, right? I've been here before, but I've never experienced something like this. Qin Zhao looked at the night sky. He did not feel any magic. However, the unusual weather was definitely not a natural phenomenon. Just then, the bison came toward the yacht. It only stopped when it was more than 10 meters away. It's them? When Prague and Peter saw the bison, their expressions changed. On the deck, Rick also saw Prague, Peter, and Pommy. Why were they here? Signal the yacht and ask for a docking, Rick said. What are they saying? Qin Zhao saw the signal from the crew on the opposite deck. He did not understand. They're asking for a docking, Prague said. In other words, to come closer. Don't let them dock, Peter immediately said. They're up to no good. Let them dock, Qin Zhao said nonchalantly. If they're obedient, then forget it. Take Pommy away. They won't just take her away, Peter said. They must have other intentions. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.